Good day. Good day. Good day. Good good day. Good day. Good day it is. Good day to you, sir. Good day, madams and ladies and sirs and gentlemen and theys and he's and she's. That's right. Hello. I'm back. Back again. Look who's back. Tell a friend. Yeah, please like, share, and subscribe. Please. Please. Even if you don't like me. No. Don't do that. Let's see. That's the cabinet. Oh wait, actually that's the dumb picture. I don't like that picture. Forget it. Hi. Hi. Hello. Can you not hear me? Hello. Hello, butterflies. Hello, Neil. Where have you guys been? I've been here for hours. Nobody was talking in chat. I'm kidding. Hey, we hear you. Hi, Cash. Hey, Cash. How you doing? Hey, Cash. How you doing? Ooh. Hi, Lee. How you doing, girl? Well, I guess we got this other thing, this things happening. Whatever's. Make that a little bit smaller. I hope everyone's Tuesday is still going well. I saw you a couple hours ago, but still, finally warming up. I know. Hey, Cash, I don't know where you are, but it's warming up here too. This is the first day I haven't had to have like a huge sweater on just to get out of goddamn bed. But I'm so glad, Cash. I'm so happy to hear that. Twice baked. Oh, 6 p.m. Oh shit. What am I doing? Oh, you know why? It's because I had a damn. Ah, fuck it. Okay, I gotta fix that. I kind of panicked with my thumbnail, so I gotta do a thumbnail. Oh well. I have 30 minutes until my big presentation on tariffs to our company. Ah, Lee, I'm so glad it's warming up for you. That's a great sign. Well, I am sending you so many good, solid, fucking strength vibes for that presentation. You got this. You got passion. You have more than other people are going to bring to that fucking party. You have passion and understanding. Yeah. I'm proud of you. I'm proud to be your friend. You've got a tough job. It's a balmy 6 degrees Celsius, 43 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty warm, Neil. That's pretty warm. Cash up. It's about Neil. It's about 50 here. See, 50. That's a good one too. That's a good that's a good that's a good temperature. I like the 50s. I like 50s. I think it's good. I mean, I love 70s. Don't get me wrong. But if I can't have 70s all the time, I'll take 50s. What we are supposed to be watching is the judiciary, but I think they're voting still on the floor. Is that how I understand it? Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Let me show you what's really going on here. Let me show you why this thing hasn't fucking started yet. All right. I'll tell you why. These guys, right? Wait. Wait. What? Hey. 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 These guys right here. This is why we can't have nice things. Wait, want to make sure. Okay. Right? Oh, 70s would be bikini weather. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, maybe a little cold. All right. I don't know which one this is. I'm going to be honest. Oh, it's the budget resolution. Fuck. Blah, blah, blah. They break all the nice stuff. Oh my God. Yeah. No, it's just an assault. It's an actual assault on our sensibilities. I guess this is the vote on the vote. But that's why we haven't have our committee hasn't started yet. So we'll hang in while they're figuring out what the shit they're doing. Anyway, good day, good day, good day. Oh, it's your meeting? Fuck yeah. Yeah, educate the people. There you go. I mean, every time. Let's see. There was also wait, hold on. Because there was something we can listen to in the meantime. While they're figuring out their shit. Oh wait, that's not it. I have to read that. Okay. This is something, a little bit that gal sent to me. 55 seconds, nothing. It's nothing. Here we go.
Speaker, unfortunately, it looks like facts and truth have absolutely no place in this administration.
Why is that so
or in
loud?
this Republican Party.
Woo!
We already knew that this administration lies like a rug. First, we heard that the United States was sending $50 million worth of condoms to Hamas, which was a lie.
Yep.
Then we heard it was Ukraine that started the war, not Russia. Another lie. Then we heard the terrible plane crash here in Washington happened because of diversity programs. Also a lie. Now the gentlelady from Indiana wants us to believe that not a single thing in the budget she is arguing for is going to hurt anyone at all.
Fun.
That there isn't a single tax giveaway to billionaires in their budget. But guess what, Mr. Speaker? It's simply not accurate. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, it looks...
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, as we spoke of earlier, the math doesn't math. The math of, like, we expect this to... Okay, come on, guys. What is going on with you? Get your asses off the floor and get into this hearing. Dang it. The math doesn't math. So apparently, just to kind of like a shorthand, this budget resolution that they're attempting to pass in the House, this budget resolution requires a baseline cut of expense of $880 billion, and that's a low estimate, basically. Blah blah blah. And what the guy told us this morning, which I'd have to look and see, for myself around the numbers, and I'm sure that's pretty easy to verify. But bottom line is that the way that proposes is that it comes from one area of the government, right? Commerce and whatever. I can't remember. Commerce and something, which happens to include Medicare, Medicaid, and all those things, apparently. So... or Medicaid, rather, I believe. So again, I want to get all the details on this, but the way I understand what the congressman told us this morning was that in order to cut that baseline of $880 billion, that would be cutting all of the programs in that category and include some of the expenses already allocated to Medicaid. So there's no mathematical way that the cuts don't include Medicaid. So that's the issue. That is the issue. And this is intended to make the tax cuts permanent, which have a lot to do with lowering corporate tax rate. So it's a boondoggle in the vernacular. It's a boondoggle. So, yeah. The other thing that I want to read that Gal shared with me, which I very much appreciate. Yeah, I want this one. Okay, we're gonna do this until we get something else. Okay, yeah, that's Marco Rubio. Boy, Marco Rubio's having a bad day. Okay, can I tell you that? Marco Rubio's having a very bad, horrible day. Because Marco Rubio thought, I'm making this up, but I'm probably not. Marco Rubio thought he could get away with it all. Marco Rubio thought he could have his cake and eat it too. Marco Rubio thought he could support demagogues and still maintain some of what he believes is the role of government. But now he can't. Now he can't. So, Marco now has to eat crow and just go along with a Nazi regime. And I don't even think his heart is in it. I don't think his heart's in it. But I'm going to tell you right now, I think he's feeling it. I get the sense he's feeling this. He's feeling just how over the edge this is. And I don't know if he knows what he signed up for. I don't know if he's read Curtis Yarvin. Curtis, has he read you? Yeah. Here we go. So this is U.S. threatens permanent visa bans on trans athletes based on their sex markers. This is the latest attempt for this administration to try and disappear an entire category of people, of humans we love. Maybe people in our own family. They're trying to disappear people who don't conform to their idea of gender. That's Nazis. That's Nazis. Okay? Sorry. You know, that's why we have words to call things things, is because when they are those things, then we use words to call them those things. Okay? So this is just the latest in the attack on trans people, non-binary people, any gender fluidity whatsoever, any gender expression. Don't conform. Get in the street. All right. State Department memo directs officers to bar those deemed to misrepresent birth on sex on applications that appear to. See, this is a feeling. Deemed. That's a feeling. That's a feeling. That's not a fact. That's not a fact. That is a feeling. Feelings. Anyway, U.S. State Department has ordered officials worldwide to deny visas to transgender athletes attempting to come to the U.S. for sports competitions, and to issue permanent visa bans against those who are deemed, again, that's a feeling, to misrepresent, it's another feeling, their birth sex on visa applications. I think the people filling out the applications know what their sex is. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'd rather hear it from them. How about that? They're 30% through Project 2025. Yeah, Russ Vought, man. Russ Vought did not come to work asleep. You're not hearing his name very much these days, but let me tell you, I can only imagine what that motherfucker is up to. We have not seen, this is only the beginning. The 24th of February State Department cable obtained by The Guardian instructs visa officers to apply Immigration and Nationality Act Section 212, blah, 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 the permanent fraud bar against trans applicants. Unlike regular visa denials, this section triggers lifetime exclusion from the United States with limited waiver possibilities. In cases where applicants are suspected, that's a feeling. That's a feeling. Nothing more than your fucking feeling of misrepresenting their purpose of travel or sex. Is it business or pleasure? Oh, it's a little bit of both. You should consider whether this misrepresentation is material, such that it supports an ineligibility finding, reads the directive from the U.S. Secretary of State. That's right, little Marco Rubio. That's right. These instructions come after Bump issued an executive order on the 5th of February, barring trans athletes from competing in women's sports. Again, a feeling, because trans athletes have been competing since time immemorial. Figure it out. Remember, we used to make documentaries about people and celebrate their championship of their identity in themselves as they persevered through bigotry. Oops. Oh, those were movies. Okay, I get it. While signing the order, the president directed the Homeland Security Secretary, Christy, I killed your dog, Gnome, to deny visas to, quote, men attempting to fraudulently enter the United States while identifying themselves as women athletes. during the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. Oh, those are going to be a hoot. Oh, which will take place under Trump's watch. At the signing, if he's not impeached by then. Okay, come on now. Give me a break. At the signing, Trump also directed Rubio to tell the International Olympic Committee, that's right, tell the IOC that America will not stand by and watch men beat and batter female athletes, none of which actually happened. All of that was also a boondoggle. That was a lie and disinformation about athletes, period. Full stop. Sarah Mehta, senior policy counsel at the ACLU, said the administration's use of the permanent fraud provision represents an unprecedented expansion of immigration law against a specific identity group. It's normal to say that people accused of fraud or misrepresentation are often considered to be ineligible. It's usually a case-by-case determination, Mehta said. But it is quite bizarre and novel in a terrible way to be saying that it's based on their misrepresenting their sex or gender in order to come and participate in an event in the United States, which also is objectively false, by the way. She added the, quote, inadmissibility provision has been used to bar groups like criminals in the past, but to single out and label transgender individuals this way as a disfavored group is really alarming. No shit, lady. It's unclear how many international trans athletes will attempt to compete in the 2028 Olympics, but the New Zealand weightlifter Laurel Hubbard was the first in history at the Tokyo Games in 2020. In 2024, the American runner Nikki Hiltz competed at the Olympics in Paris. The directive would also apply to other women's sports leagues such as the National Women's Soccer League, the Women's National Basketball Association, which allow trans athletes to compete, or future Women's World Cup competitions hosted in the U.S. The State Department cable instructs consular officers to examine birth certificates when documentation conflicts and mark all cases with SWS-25 to track enforcement across consular posts worldwide. It also mentions a forthcoming separate guidance from the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. I've never heard of that. That will outline additional actions to preclude, this is a quote, preclude biologically male athletes from participating in women's sporting events, including sports exchanges in the United States. The directive comes weeks after the NCAA announced it would be restricting women's sports to athletes who are assigned female at birth. The State Department did not respond. Yeah. So that's that. Good job, Marco. You're on the wrong side of history, bitch. Let me tell you. What are we talking about?
Gentleman is recognized.
What are we doing?
Mr. Chairman, today we will unlock the policies for making America safe and prosperous again.
How?
By advancing the FY25 budget resolution.
Oh.
Gentleman will suspend.
Shut up.
Members of the chamber, would you kindly take your private conversations from the floor?
Oh, fuck off.
So that debate on the subject at hand in the House, the People's House, may continue. Gentleman from Texas.
What's the holding a caucus? What does that mean, Jim?
As I was saying, Mr. Chairman, today we're going to unlock the policies to make America safe and prosperous again. This fiscal framework will guide the process for restoring the fiscal health of our nation by reining in reckless spending and reigniting economic growth. In addition, and importantly, it provides critical resources to our commander-in-chief
Pudgy Clark
to
Kent is a
secure our
Republican.
borders, strengthen our military, and provide
so you're getting
for the
real
common
good at
defense.
it. Every day, butterflies, I hate them more.
Mr. Chairman, my Democrat colleagues are going to reach way back to the only plays they know how to run.
Well, that's the Tea Party.
Making false claims and fear-mongering. Why? Because they are still, even after the recent election, disconnected from the people's reality.
Doge is a tool
because they're more
for the
concerned
same
with
fuckers.
protecting unionized government bureaucrats and woke and wasteful government programs than they are about protecting taxpayers and their sacred treasure.
They're traitors.
Why?
That's what we call them, the traitor
because
caucus.
Their commitment isn't to we the people in this fateful moment.
Bigot
it's to
caucus?
we the
I don't
government.
know. Pick
and
your poison.
Derailing the mandate from the people for common sense policies and President Trump's America First agenda. I'm going to take some time to set the record straight, Mr. Chairman, so that every time the American people
What's the
hear
big
these
red
false
badge
claims
behind him?
to mislead
Is
them
he a
into
traitor
thinking
on
that
a
the
floor or
tax cuts
something?
somehow benefited the
Whoa,
billionaires
you're
and
dismissed.
corporations and that Republicans are cutting benefits for seniors and the poorest among us. I want the American people to know the truth. And here's the truth.
Tell us.
The Trump tax cuts lowered tax rates for every American household
How?
at every income level
How?
while increasing
Show me.
the amount of taxes paid
Show me.
by the top 1%.
Show me.
According to the Washington Post,
Really?
which, by the way, gave Democrats not one, not two, not three, 4 Pinocchios every time they made these misleading claims.
There's
They
actually
said 3
plenty
of every
of
$4 in the
studies
Trump
that
tax
show
cuts
how
didn't
the
go to
tax cuts did
corporations,
not
but they went to
help
individuals.
the middle
cutting
class.
taxes for the lowest
My
income
taxes went up.
individuals by 10%.
I was middle class
while
at the
cutting
time. Now I'm
taxes
probably
for the
below.
top 1% of the income earners by less than 1/2
My
of
taxes
1%.
went up.
In addition, we saw a record 25-year wage increase for median household incomes.
Oh, well.
Real
okay.
wages at the bottom 10% rose 2 times faster than the top 10%. Real wealth at the bottom half of households rose 3 times faster than that of the top
Why and
half
when? Context
of
matters.
our country.
Context
A record
matters.
6 million people were lifted out of poverty. Black, Hispanic, and Asian American citizens experienced historic high incomes.
I can't wait to see all his
all-time
citations.
low unemployment.
I really can't.
Here's the reality, Mr. Chairman. Our Democrat colleagues oppose
Not
the American
once
people's
has a
tax
Republican
cuts. Back in
balanced the
2017, and they
budget. All
opposed
right.
their tax
Only
cuts
Democrats
today, and
have
if they
had
were
good
successful
economics.
in this endeavor, here's
So
what
these
would
guys
happen.
are fucking liars.
We'd have a 22% tax hike on every American citizen on average.
That is not true.
They
You're a
just
liar.
Suffered
Wait,
through
where's
a
our lies?
21% tax hike
Where's
on
the lies
from the
then?
inflation
we
tax
still have
over the
one?
last 4 years and the worst cost of living crisis in modern history.
I wonder if I do.
Median income families would lose $1,700. 26 million
here we
small
go.
businesses would pay at the highest marginal rate and lose the 20% deduction, putting them on a comparable level to the corporate tax rates. Child tax credits, 40 million families would have the tax credit for their children cut in half. And 91% of the American people that get the standard deduction would have that cut in half. Those are the
No,
results.
I mean,
the
you know, his
Democrats
numbers could
standing in the
actually be
way
right, but they're going to
of what
depend
would
on
be, if
context,
they
and
were
I'm going to fight it.
successful, the
I
highest
want to
tax
see that.
hike
I want to see the
in
backup
American
data, bitch.
history. Here's the other false claim. To pay for these tax cuts, the Democrats
here
are
we
going
go.
to say that Republicans are cutting benefits for seniors and for, again, our poorest and most vulnerable among us.
No, we're
Here's
doing the
truth,
second
Mr.
poorest
Chairman.
and most vulnerable.
Republicans are fighting to right-size a woke, weaponized, and bloated bureaucracy.
Ooh, you look cute.
To root out the trillions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse, and to rein in the reckless spending of the Biden administration and our Democrat colleagues from over the last 4 years. Prior to 2019, before President Biden took office, and he and the Democrats jammed $2 trillion through in the so-called
Subcommittee will
COVID
come to
relief,
order.
even though
Without objection, the
maybe
chair is
10,
authorized to declare a
20%
recess at
of
any
that money
time.
actually went.
We welcome everyone to today's hearing on birthright citizenship. I will now recognize myself for an opening statement. As Supreme Court Justice Louise Brandeis once wrote, the most important office, and the one which all of us can and should fill, is that of private citizen. This hearing is on the issue foundational to our republic. Who is an American citizen by birthright? Section 1 of the 14th Amendment grants citizenship to all persons who are, quote, born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, end quote. It is the latter clause, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that we will examine today in significant part. Our inquiry is simple. What was the original public meaning of the jurisdiction clause? The 14th Amendment was drafted to rectify the terrible decision in the 1857 Dred Scott v. Sanford case by recognizing former slaves as rightful Americans. As we'll learn from our witnesses today, the answer is clear. The jurisdiction clause, as originally understood, grants birthright citizenship only to children whose parents have full exclusive allegiance to the United States. The constitutional text and history shows that children of illegal aliens and legal aliens who are in the United States temporarily are not citizens by birthright under the 14th Amendment. For decades, proponents of automatic birthright citizenship have claimed the 14th Amendment and the Wong Kim Ark case bestows automatic citizenship to all children born to foreign nationals, including illegal aliens. This is a blatant misunderstanding of both items, resulting in birthright citizenship serving as a driving force of illegal immigration to the United States, as many illegal aliens and temporary visa holders know they can reap the benefits of their child's citizenship. President Trump's first-day executive order on birthright citizenship restored
Russians?
the 14th Amendment to this original meaning.
Hell yeah, SB.
Despite what you may hear on the news, some of the most respected legal scholars agree with the constitutional interpretation outlined in President Trump's executive order. Some of these legal scholars include those here on this panel today. Our witnesses will dive into the history of the 14th Amendment in Congress and the Supreme Court. But I'll give you a brief version. The drafters of the 14th Amendment understood it not to grant citizenship to persons, quote, owing allegiance to any foreign sovereignty, end quote. And in the first cases decided after ratification,
Neil, I'm telling
the
you right now,
Supreme Court
it's a
held that
fucking
jurisdiction in the 14th Amendment means not merely subject in some respect or degree to the jurisdiction of the United States, but completely subject to their political jurisdiction and owing them direct and immediate allegiance.
I don't think
Of
it
course,
worked out that way.
legal
I don't know.
aliens
Were you
and
at the
legal
last
temporary
election?
United States residents
Your
do
theory
not
didn't
owe
really work
complete,
out very well.
direct, and immediate allegiance to the United States. And therefore, their children are not citizens by birthright under the 14th Amendment.
They don't
Now,
love
I'm sure
America
we'll hear a lot
enough.
from our colleagues
I
on the
get
other
it.
side of the aisle
I
about
get it.
Supreme Court precedent
Yeah.
as well.
Okay, that's cool.
So let us make one thing
Whatever.
clear at the outset. The Supreme Court has
Pretty
never
horrible.
held that children of illegal aliens or aliens who are in the United States temporarily are entitled to birthright citizenship.
Really? They didn't say
President
that?
Trump's executive order is consistent with Supreme Court precedent.
Really?
I'd also like to emphasize the purpose of today's hearing.
Are you a
We're here
lawyer,
to discuss
Chip?
an important constitutional question. This is, after all, the Constitution Subcommittee. And I hope that we can keep our focus on the text and history
Oh,
of the
is
14th
that what
Amendment.
this is called?
But no doubt some of the policy
interesting.
implications will come up.
Let's see.
And it
Curtis,
would be a
take a break.
disservice not to at least mention those important issues implicated by the constitutional question. In addition to twisting the Constitution and court precedent, conferring automatic citizenship is a bad policy. It devalues the meaning of American citizenship by bestowing it to the children of lawbreakers
Oh, here
who
we
entered
go.
the United States without the consent of its people, almost rewarding them for trespassing into our country's soil. To add context, an estimated 124,000 to 300,000
Excuse me. Sorry.
so-called anchor babies, which are children born to illegal aliens, are born each year according to the Center for Immigration Studies. In 2023, up to 250,000 children were born to illegal aliens in 2023, which accounted for 7% of total births in the nation that year. Moreover, it further strains government programs that are already strained. For example, in terms of supplemental nutrition assistance, SNAP, which provides school meals, Americans shell out $5 billion each year in SNAP and
Shell
food stamps
out.
for the U.S.-born children
Damn
of
food
illegal
stamp,
aliens,
damn hungry
according
kids.
to a 2023 report by the
Meddlesome
Federation
kids.
for American Immigration Reform.
Get in the way of my
If one
boat
looks
payment.
at the amount illegal aliens and their
Bitch.
U.S.-born children are projected to consume in federal welfare program benefits,
consume.
the American
See, they're all
taxpayer
just a
foots an
bunch of
even
little
larger bill.
takers.
Take, for example, in a July 2024 report, the Congressional Budget Office that answers to us concluded that the federal government is projected to spend $177 billion in welfare benefits to illegal aliens and their U.S.-born children
let
over the
them
next 10 years.
starve.
Now, mindful, that is a
Let 'em
larger population.
starve.
But it is clear that the birthright citizenship
Right?
issue implicates those issues.
We're
This
right, right?
$177 billion includes Medicaid, SSI,
Right?
Obamacare premium
it's
tax
okay
credits, food
if
stamps, and more.
I mean, if,
Ending universal
it's okay
birthright
if we want
citizenship
those
and
kids
thereby
to just,
ending
like,
birth
fucking
tourism, a
die,
practice in
right?
which pregnant women travel to the United States to give birth and secure
Yeah, 'cause
citizenship
you know
for their
what?
children
You're
is good
coming
policy.
here
Birth
in
tourism
your
diverts U.S. medical
luxury
resources away from our own mothers and babies and
caravan
allows shady
with
and
your
unscrupulous birth
pregnant
tourism agencies,
girlfriend,
quote unquote,
and so
to
she
prey
can have an
on
anchor
expectant
baby
mothers.
in,
According to a 2020 study, there are between 20,000 and
El Paso.
26,000
That's right.
foreign
That's what you're
tourists in the
doing.
U.S.
You're
giving
just
birth on
bringing
our soil
those
annually.
luxuriously
As far back as 2008, the
appointed
CEO of the
pregnant
McAllen,
women
Texas
who
Medical Center,
basically,
where about 40% of
don't have
births
to
were
make a
to
very
illegal
dangerous
alien
journey,
mothers,
'cause I'm sure someone
stated that,
carries
quote,
them
mothers
on one
about
of
to
those
give
things
birth
like
walk
they
up to the
carried
hospital,
Cleopatra. Do you guys
clearly
remember
having
those?
just swum
'Cause I
across the
think what
river in
probably
actual
happened
labor.
is that they carried them.
Just as
and so
concerningly,
those women
adversaries
are
like
not,
China are abusing
it's not
universal
tough
birthright
to be a
citizenship
pregnant woman
and
trying to
practicing
make
birth
it to
tourism
the
to nestle
border,
deeper into U.S.
okay?
society,
Don't buy
which
that.
carries security
Okay?
concerns.
Okay.
In 2018,
Okay.
Georgetown Law's O'Neill Institute wrote the following, quote, Women from foreign countries, mainly China and Russia, are paying tens of thousands of dollars to temporarily relocate to the United States during their pregnancy in order to give birth in the United States and thereby guarantee
Florida.
U.S. citizenship for their child.
Mr.
To shed light on the
Trump,
magnitude of this abuse, China hosts over 500 companies offering birth tourism services, resulting in more than 50,000 Chinese nationals delivering babies in the United States every year, according to a 2019 estimate.
Yeah, get the rich people.
The Constitution does not require us to allow this practice, and we should not. Even late Senate Democrat Majority Leader Harry Reid recognized the disastrous policy implications of birthright citizenship as he opposed automatic citizenship for children born to foreigners.
Who opposed
He
that?
said the following in a 1993 speech on the Senate floor.
Clinton?
Quote,
Who?
if making it easy to be an illegal alien isn't enough, how about offering a reward for being an illegal immigrant? No sane country would do that, right? End quote.
Who said that?
He continued, guess again. If you break our laws by entering this country without permission and give birth to a child, we reward that child with U.S. citizenship and guarantee a full access to all public and social services.
Center for Immigration
this
Studies is an
provides.
anti-immigration think
and
tank.
That's a lot of services. That is Harry Reid.
Thank you, Max.
Former Democrat leader in the United States Senate.
Harry Reid.
Senator Reid was right
he's
in
not
his
here to
observation.
tell you.
No sane country would enable a foolish policy like automatic citizenship
I bet you was talking about
to children
Russian
born
anchor
to foreigners,
babies who are born
especially
to
illegal
oligarchs.
aliens. Congress should heed his warning.
Yeah,
But
no, I
simply,
don't
the
want
framers of the
oligarchs to
14th
have
Amendment did not intend
anchor
for
babies.
universal
How about that?
citizenship
How do we fix
to
that?
children born to all classes of foreigners.
Oops, I guess that's the
Nor
law.
did the judges in Wong Kim Ark case rule on the question of citizenship beyond the children of lawful permanent residents, including those born to illegal aliens and temporary
It
visitors.
is
There's one more point
why
I'd like to make
I
in
like
closing.
to shoot myself in
Congress
the dick
is where the
by
debate
Chip
over
Roy.
birthright
No,
citizenship
it's
should be happening.
It's a
In fact, my
birthright
friend from
citizenship
Texas, Representative Brian Babbitt's
discussion
legislation,
of whether or
the
not birthright
Act
citizenship
that
has
would
to be
fix
the
this
law
policy
of the
gap
land.
and restore the practice
Oh,
of granting
sorry, yeah,
U.S.
no, it's
citizenship
kinda hidden,
as
though.
intended
There's a
in
lot
the
of shit
14th
going
Amendment.
on.
Section
So,
8 of Article 1 and
apologies.
Section 5 of the 14th Amendment grant us power
What'd I just
over
do?
questions of citizenship. President Trump's executive order rightly returns that power to us. And in doing so, it returns us to the
What did I just
reasonable
do?
common sense interpretation of the 14th Amendment when it was ratified in 1868. I now recognize the ranking member, Ms. Scanlon, for her opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, since this is our first
Oh, come
hearing
on,
of
give
the
it.
new Congress, I'd like to say that I am anticipating we will continue to have a vigorous exchange of ideas in this committee room, and I imagine we'll tackle some interesting and thorny legal disputes throughout this term. However, I have to admit that today's topic probably won't meet that expectation, because for more than a century, there have been few legal questions as open and shut as whether being born in the United States makes someone a United States citizen. And this is a little bit of a spoiler alert here. I'll skip ahead and tell you right now, it does. Frankly, to suggest otherwise is nothing but a blatant and disingenuous attempt to rewrite our nation's history and the very words of the Constitution. Contrary to the chair's assertions, the history of the amendment does not support the interpretation that he and his colleagues are pressing, and I beg to differ with his assertion that it's only been a few decades of people making the interpretation, which has been in effect for over a century. Now, rewriting history and ignoring the rule of law has become a feature, not a bug, under the Trump administration, but it's one that Congress has a constitutional obligation to prevent rather than enable. So why are our Republican colleagues questioning the plain and long-settled meaning of the birthright citizenship clause? Simply put, it's because President Trump and his allies in Congress think there's something to gain politically by stripping an entire group of American citizens of their rights, their votes, their very identities, and turning them and their descendants into a permanent underclass. They want to decide who they deem worthy of being a citizen of our country and who isn't based on who their parents are and where their parents are from. And in an act of really cynical irony, they want to, in essence, resurrect the rationale behind the Dred Scott decision that the 14th Amendment was written to reject once and for all. Our history, our quest for a more perfect union, has always been about expanding opportunity and civic participation, not ripping it away. Broadening our electorate has been an important part of that progress, including through constitutional amendments that guarantee citizenship, enfranchisement regardless of race, women's suffrage, and more. And in doing so, we've sought to make our country and its government more representative, more fair, and more perfect. That's a goal.
Oh
a
my God, I'm
vision
sorry about the
that
eyes. I
all
forgot about
patriotic
the eyes.
Americans
I'm
should
sorry.
share.
Oh my God, I
Any
can't find
attempt
them
to
right now.
radically
I'm so
reinterpret the
sorry.
citizenship clause serves only to
There they
further the goal of right-wing extremists to unconstitutionally
Sometimes I
limit
can't see.
who can have a political voice in this country. Donald
like her
Trump's
hat.
unconstitutional executive order to end birthright citizenship, along with legislative
The EU
efforts by
proposed its
Republicans
own
in
mineral
Congress to
deal?
do the same,
Oh, God.
would drag us backwards.
I have a problem with
Ensuring
rich
a
people
government that's
taking
not
advantage
for
of
the
things
people,
like
but
that.
for
That's all. I
some
don't care
people.
where they come from.
It's the
I don't want rich
absolute
people to take
antithesis of
advantage of
the
shit.
promise
They
of
don't need to
America.
take advantage. They don't.
It's
They get
been
enough
150
advantage.
years since the 14th Amendment enshrined
Paul
birthright
said-
citizenship into the Constitution.
No.
In that
Where'd
time,
you
the
go,
U.S.
Paul?
has been made better by the contributions of Americans born here to immigrant parents,
I missed your question,
regardless
Paul.
of where their parents came from.
How bad does it need
or
to
their
get?
parents' citizenship status.
Well, see, some people
Overturning
don't think this
birthright
is bad.
Citizenship would hurt our nation and
That's right.
deeply imperil
But
our
take a look at
ability
this.
to continue striving for a better future.
Want to really
It would impact
get mad?
all Americans by
Oops.
creating a logistical nightmare.
Oh, that's not it.
Bureaucracy
Damn it.
would invade our maternity wards, with states and hospitals
Oh,
being
wait.
forced
That?
to investigate which babies do or don't qualify for citizenship. More troublingly, though, ending birthright citizenship would create a legal caste system based on the status of one's parents. Instead of citizens, the U.S. would develop a permanent underclass of stateless.
There- you're right,
not
Jim. There is a
legally
Doge
recognized
caucus
subjects who could
having a
be
meeting.
exploited or deported at
Look
the
at their
mercy of a
fucking
political
stupid
majority.
logo.
That would be a twisted reflection
God,
of the
these
intended
guys are
purpose of the
fucking
14th Amendment.
incredible.
Because the language chosen by the amendment's framers in the aftermath of the Civil War
That's
was
incredible.
to prevent this kind of caste
Look at that.
system from ever
Look
returning.
at that fucking shit.
So if our Republican colleagues want to have a
Dumb.
legal argument today, here it is. The children, American children of undocumented immigrants and the American children of those here on visas, such as for work or study, are indeed persons born here in America. At the moment of their birth, they're subject to the laws of the United States with an undeniable constitutional claim to the rights, duties, and protections of
Yeah,
that reciprocal
sorry.
relationship.
That's the way it
In
is.
other words, citizenship. The 14th Amendment's guarantee that all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. And that's the quote.
You know, I don't
Clearly
really know.
applies to
Motion
those
to vacate.
individuals. The plain text of that clause is about as straightforward
Wait, are they doing a motion to
statement
vacate?
of American law as you can get. But there's additional support throughout the legislative
I don't think there's
history
much
of
we
this
can do,
clause. In the debates on the passage
before-
of this amendment over a century ago, Congress clearly
Before
defined the intent
midterms, and
purpose
frankly,
of
I'm
the
not very
birthright
confident.
citizenship
I mean, I
clause
want midterms
and
to be the
rejected
referendum they
the
should be,
types of
but
arguments being
will it? I don't know.
advanced against it today.
We're going to have to work hard, I
Similarly,
think,
the
at
Supreme
least
Court
give it an effort.
considered and rejected arguments against the plain
But I
meaning
don't know
of the
how we-
amendment in the case of United States
How
versus
we
Wong Kim
fix
Ark,
that.
way
Please
back
share the
in
broadcast.
1898.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Subsequent cases have
Really helps.
rejected the proposition being advanced by our colleagues today that the children of certain immigrants born in the United States should be denied
Ah, okay.
citizenship because it's unconstitutional. Clearly, the law and history support the straightforward conclusion, and that's why 4 federal judges have already blocked the president's executive order attempting to end birthright citizenship. One of those judges, Judge Kunauer, a Reagan appointee, told Trump's DOJ lawyers the executive order was, quote, blatantly unconstitutional. In fact, he said in the courtroom, and I would hate to have been the lawyer on the receiving end of this, he had, quote, difficulty understanding how a member of the bar would state unequivocally that this is a constitutional order, end quote, noting that it boggled his mind. Flimsy arguments aside, ultimately, a president cannot unilaterally repeal a constitutional amendment. Any elementary student of civics knows the only way to repeal an amendment is with another amendment. Remember Prohibition? The 18th Amendment to the Constitution outlawed the sale and manufacture of alcohol in 1919, and it was repealed by the 21st Amendment in 1933. But there's the rub. Americans overwhelmingly support birthright citizenship. Presidents and extremists like Stephen Miller, who've championed the
Exactly.
idea,
I may
know
not
that they
like it that
don't
rich people
have the
take
votes
advantage
to
of that,
pass a
but that is the
constitutional
law.
amendment to repeal birthright citizenship, much less get the approval of 3/4 of the states to make it law. So instead, they're trying to do an end run on
Exactly.
the Constitution.
This is the point.
With a tortured and
This is the
unconstitutional
point.
reading of the English language and more than a century of legal analysis. Our Republican colleagues are here today trying to enable the president as he pushes his wager that his Supreme Court, the one he stacked, will ratify his illegal attempt to amend the Constitution without the consent of the American people.
Exactly.
As a Congress, as a government, as a nation, we should not be in the business of turning back the clock.
It's a serious
and allowing
moment.
or pushing our country to backslide into the most shameful parts of its past. Instead, we should be passing laws that guide it toward the light of a brighter future, one in which our most fundamental American principles and the promise to form a more perfect union ring true for all, rather than just for a privileged few. And that more just, that more fair America, and the policies that actually get us there is what I and my Democratic colleagues would rather use this committee to fight for. I yield back.
Yeah.
Not seeing either the chairman or ranking member, we will move forward and without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record. We will now introduce today's witnesses. Mr. Charles Cooper.
This should be good.
Mr. Cooper is the chairman and founding partner of Cooper & Kirk PLLC, a boutique law firm in Washington, D.C. He has spent more than 30 years in private practice and has argued 9 cases before the United States Supreme Court. He previously served in the Department of Justice and was a law clerk
but how many do you
to
win?
Justice William Rehnquist. Mr. R. Trent McCotter. Mr. McCotter is a partner at Boyd & Gray PLLC.
Did he just
where he
ignore the
litigates
woman?
in federal court and before federal agencies. He previously served as a Deputy Associate Attorney General, where he oversaw the department's civil, appellate, and federal programs branches. He also previously served as a federal prosecutor with the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Texas.
There's also a
Virginia.
weaponization hearing
Slip.
going on at the
Comes
same
right out.
time.
Mr. Matt O'Brien.
Yeah, she must be our
Mr.
witness.
O'Brien is the Director of Investigations at the Immigration Reform Law Institute, where he oversees IRLI's investigations into fraud, waste, and abuse in the application and enforcement of the nation's immigration laws. He previously served as an immigration judge and in various positions with the Department of Homeland Security. Professor Amanda Frost. Ms. Frost is the David Lurton Massey Jr. Professor of Law at the University of Virginia. It's my undergraduate alma mater. Professor Frost's research focuses on immigration and citizenship law, federal courts and jurisdiction, and judicial ethics. We thank our witnesses for appearing today, and we'll begin by swearing you in. Would you please rise and raise your right hand?
Raise your right hand. Na 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 na. There's another one I want to maybe
Do you swear
jump
or
to.
affirm under penalty of perjury
God damn,
that the
there's
testimony
2
you are
of
about
them.
to give
Fuck.
is true and correct to the best of your knowledge,
Fuck.
information, and belief, so help you God?
Oh, wait, we've got to go to the other one. Fuck this guy. Sorry. We got to go to the other one. Hold on, everybody. I don't want that channel. God damn it. Give me that fucking... It's the one with Jamie Raskin. I had it teed up, and I don't know why it's not fucking here now. I'm sorry. I'm a little angry. But then there's a Government Accountability Office one, too. Damn it. Come on. Where is it? Oh, YouTube, you suck balls right now. There we go.
Resettlement. Put differently, the Department of Justice
Hold
wants
on.
Mayor Adams to give fealty to Trump and also use him to execute Trump's immigration policy in New York City. The blatant corruption of this quid pro quo alone should warrant this subcommittee to investigate the current weaponization of this Department of Justice. But this is far from the only example of weaponization occurring before us.
Sorry.
Next, government abuse and political treachery. Make no mistake, acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove ordering Brian Driscoll, the then acting director of the FBI, to turn over a list of not just current but also former FBI staff who were assigned, quote, at any time to investigations and or prosecutions related to the events that occurred at or near the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, end quote. It is a clear illustration of government abuse targeting employees they wrongfully claim are political adversaries. In fact, rather than utilize the FBI's time and resources to protect America from cyber attacks, terrorism, and other violent crimes, Trump's DOJ is choosing to spend resources to build loyalty to Trump. If that is not government abuse, I just don't know what is. Third, The view that the government is acting, quote, against people who were innocent and did nothing wrong. For those of you who may not be familiar, when career prosecutors and staff at DOJ are assigned to cases, they take these tasks on not because of power or politics, but because it is quite simply part of the job. It's rare that prosecutors get every case they want. Instead, prosecutors and staff are assigned cases because of their capacity, experience, and expertise. But where we see commitment to the Constitution and the rule of law, the Trump DOJ sees reason for retribution. This has already taken shape in various forms, but notably, on January 27th, Trump's then acting Attorney General James McHenry fired DOJ officials on those of which worked on federal criminal investigations into Trump. Let me repeat this. They fired DOJ officials who did nothing wrong. These officials simply did their jobs. Now, finally, quote,
I know
targeting
GOA
people
sounds
of
good too.
one political
We'll go to that
persuasion.
one after.
While I just briefly touch on this point, I want to be very clear with the American people. Within the last 35 days, Trump's DOJ has already sent inquiry letters to Democratic members of Congress for speaking out and criticizing Elon Musk. Our task on this subcommittee today is to conduct real congressional oversight of the Department of Justice, because this notion of weaponization is not simply a threat, it is a reality. The public is worried. Career attorneys are worried. Congress is worried. The world is worried. Every day that passes, the Department of Justice is losing institutional knowledge and exceptional attorneys because of a blind arrogance and vengeance. We owe it to this country to come together to call out weaponization happening today, to call out corruption, government abuse, attacks on innocent people, and the targeting of people with different political views. We owe it to everyone to speak the truth, even if the truth is hard to hear. We owe it to us all to preserve our country's rule of law. And the final point that I'll make is that there were a number of attorneys that were brought up in the chairman's opening remarks. Attorney General Letitia James of New York, as well as DA Fani Willis. I do want to point out that each of these women are women that were duly elected in their states, and Fani Willis was just reelected. That is not federal lawfare. That is not weaponization of the federal government. Both of those women work on the state level. And the final point that I'll make is that while they work on state levels, there were only a certain amount of cases that were able to be tried prior to the election. Any cases that did take place, whether they were civil cases or federal cases, I do want to point out, regardless of who brought those cases ultimately, at least the ones that did go, they ultimately went to juries. They went to juries that were full of American citizens, juries that were not asked, are you going to sit here and support Donald Trump and his agenda, or do you have some left-wing agenda? They were given an opportunity to hear the evidence, and they were able to rule based on the evidence that was presented to them. I am someone who misses the courtroom every single day, as I practiced for 17 years before entering into Congress. And if we continue to pretend as if the voices of everyday American citizens don't matter when they have an opportunity to listen to both sides of a case and make a decision, then we really are in for a rude awakening in this country. One thing that we should do as members of Congress is we should preserve our institutions and make sure we build them up to the point that people have trust. And when you walk into a courtroom, you have no idea who's walking in and who just decided that they would actually show up for jury duty. And I am here to tell you that I still believe in that imperfect but beautiful system that we have in this country, known as the jury system. And with that, I will yield.
Thank you, Ranking Member. Quickly point out that the President did ask his attorneys for a neutral venue and was denied during some of those cases. and Judge Marchand himself was very politically connected, particularly.
Shut
through
the fuck up.
Twitter. However, I did want to make an announcement. This is a one-time only appearance pretty much here.
Did you get shit canned over to a room, Drew?
For those who come regularly, will be in the other room that usually the Judiciary Committee is in.
Really? Van Drew, they kick you out, you stupid ass?
Chairman of the full committee, the gentleman from Ohio, Jim Jordan, for his opening statement.
I don't know about the great part, but thank you, Mr. Chairman. They could never tell us who planted the pipe bombs on January 6th. They could never
it was
tell us
Ivan
who leaked the
Raiklen, your
Dobson
buddy,
opinion, and they could never
you
tell
cunt.
us who put cocaine at the White House.
It
But
was
they
probably
sure
one of
had
your
time for a lot
stupid
of
ass
other things.
people.
October 2nd, 2021, they set up a snitch line to report moms and dads who have the nerve to show up at
No,
a school
that's
board
because
meeting and
people
advocate
were
for their son or daughter.
astroturfing
On
school board
September
meetings
23rd,
and causing
2022,
violence in
10
the meetings
unmarked
and in the
cars
parking
pull up to
lots and
Mike
threatening
Markhouse'
parents.
home,
So
arrest
shut up,
him
Jim.
in front of his wife and 7 children. And what did
Shut
he do
up,
wrong?
Jim. This is all
What
Jim
did he do
has.
wrong?
These
Pray in
3
front of an abortion
stories
clinic,
are
and when
all
some crazy guy comes
he
up and starts yelling
has.
obscenities in his kid's face,
That's all he has.
Make sure he deals
These
with that
3
guy.
stories. It's it. He's had
went to
these
court.
3
The
stories
jury found him not
for
guilty.
years.
On November
For
18th, 2022,
years.
the chairman talked about this.
For
Raid,
years.
excuse me,
He
actually
has no
before
new
that, the summer
stories.
of 2022.
No new stories.
Raid on President
Oh,
Trump's home.
November 220. Oh,
President
raid
Trump's
on
attorney said,
President
"You
Trump's
come, They were
home.
working with him. No. We got to do a raid.
You're
We had
a traitor,
actually Stephen Dan
Jim.
Quanto,
You're a
head of the Washington
traitor.
field office, tell us how wrong that was,
I
how they
hate
broke
him.
all
I'm
kinds of
sorry.
protocol. 2 months later, Mr. Garland appoints Jack Smith as special prosecutor. And as the chairman pointed out in his opening statement, the lead prosecutor, Jay Bratt, used the promise of a judgeship to try to pressure one of the defendant's lawyers.
Where's
Not
my
allowed to do
ukulele?
that. We're going to talk to Mr. Bratt at some point
Here it
in
is.
this committee. We'll have him in for a deposition. January 23rd, 2023, FBI Richmond Field Office issues a memorandum
Let's
where it
tune
says
our
if you're a
ukulele.
pro-life
Do
Catholic,
something
you
productive.
might be a domestic violent extremist.
Here we go. Hold on.
Can't tell us who put cocaine at the White House, but you can call Catholics extremists.
Yeah,
Spring
they
of
are.
2023,
No, actually, I know some
brave
really great
whistleblowers
Catholics.
Come forward and tell us about the sweetheart
Zombie
deal
grievances. We got
that
zombie
David Weiss was trying to do for Hunter Biden.
grievances. All right, here
Of
we
course,
go.
those guys' reward for coming forward as good, brave whistleblowers was to have their security clearances taken from them and be retaliated against. 6:01 a.m., March 19th, 2024. Brian Malinowski, Little Rock, Arkansas, highest paid official in the Little Rock government, runs the Bill and Hillary Clinton Airport. 6:01. All these folks show up in the morning. First thing they do is put tape on the doorbell cam, and they're coming after Mr. Malinowski, a warrant to search his home because they believed he had sold 6 guns that he wasn't supposed to sell.
Because he was a private gun seller. He's an
6:01.
asshole.
Tape on the doorbell cam.
See, there's context to each of
53
these.
Seconds later, Brian Malinowski shot in the head, later dies. They could have handled that. So, I mean, the SWAT team and everything else, just talk to his lawyers. You could have, all kinds of ways you could have handled that to avoid the terrible outcome. We had Brian Malinowski's spouse here last Congress. His lawyer testified. Tragic story.
Yeah,
Because
it's
of
all
this Justice
tragic.
Department, the previous Justice Department, the way they handled things. And don't
Oh, this
forget,
one doesn't want to go.
December
there we go.
12, 2024, when the Inspector General told us about the
Yeah, hell yeah.
26 confidential human sources
All right,
who
here
were
we
there
go.
on January 6, 2021. 17 went in restricted space, which they were not authorized to do. 4 went in the Capitol, which they were not authorized to do. None of them were charged. 2 of the 4 who went in the Capitol were asked to be there by the FBI. We got all kinds of questions about that incident.
Oh, man.
About those
I'm bad. I
confidential
haven't
human
practiced in a
sources.
couple days.
All kinds of questions we want answered. Now, thank goodness, and the chairman referenced this as well. Thank goodness, Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino are now going to be running the Justice Department.
Oopsie.
We won't have this kind of ridiculous focus on agencies being turned on the very people they're supposed to serve. We sent 7 subpoenas today. 7 subpoenas that we sent asking for information about all these issues. We want everything you got so the American people have answers. Maybe it's not as bad as I think.
He's got
But
good
one thing
blush
I've learned in
today,
my
though.
time in Congress with these investigations.
I would put a little more under
every
his eyes,
single
though.
time, the only thing we get wrong
A
is
little
it's
over the
always
bridge of
worse
his
than we
nose.
thought.
Maybe a little contour.
It is always worse than we thought. So maybe I'll be proven
Hi,
wrong this
Carrie.
time. But we're going to get that information. I think the date's March 7th. They're supposed to have this information back to us. So I want to thank the chairman and the good work I know he's going to do this Congress, the great work he's done on our committee for having this hearing, taking a look back at what we saw from this ridiculous previous Justice Department and the good work I think we're going to see from the folks who are now running that critical department and agency. With that, I yield back.
Thank you, Chairman. I now recognize the ranking member of the full committee, Mr. Raskin, for his opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very kindly.
Hey, Jamie, slow down. Hot
Last
mic.
Congress, the good chairman of the committee and the committee sent over 150 letters of inquiry and subpoenas to the DOJ and the FBI. That's more than 2 inquiries a week for every week that we were in session. All that breathless investigation didn't yield much evidence of weaponization any more than it led to the impeachment of Joe Biden, which was the express objective of it all. But I have good news for all of the weaponized sleuths and gumshoes out there on the committee. The Department of Justice and the FBI are now filled with actual staggering corruption and weaponized lawlessness, and we should get on it immediately. It's only been 36 days since the beginning of the administration, but we already have a thick report we're releasing today on the violations of law and the Constitution that have taken place, the early misdeeds of the Trump administration DOJ. It's true the federal courts have issued more than 20 temporary restraining orders and preliminary injunctions to try to stop this governmental crime wave, but we cannot maintain a demure legislative silence, Mr. Chairman, about the shocking weaponized corruption overtaking the U.S. Department of Justice. 10 days ago, 7 career prosecutors resigned in protest rather than carry out a corrupt and lawless order from the acting Deputy Attorney General and former Donald Trump private defense attorney, Emil Beauvais. He ordered prosecutors in the Southern District to dismiss for totally political reasons a major public corruption case against New York Mayor Eric Adams, who had been charged by a unanimous grand jury in a 57-page indictment with 5 felony counts of criminal bribery and soliciting illegal contributions. Trump ordered DOJ to withdraw the grand jury indictment after Adams traveled to Mar-a-Lago and agreed to back Trump's political agenda in return. The interim U.S. Attorney, Danielle Sassoon, resigned rather than make her storied office a party to this profoundly corrupt bargain. She refused to extend prosecutorial favoritism towards a politician who had been indicted for serious bribery and corruption charges, nor would she participate in Mr. Beauvais' project to cover up the details of this dirty deal. Ms. Sassoon is a Republican with impeccable credentials in the conservative movement, for anyone who might doubt it, a member of the Federalist Society and a former law clerk to Supreme Court Justice Scalia, a jurist whom I know the chairman has repeatedly praised. Now, in ordinary times, we wouldn't have to raise this, but here we do, because we live in an atmosphere of political paranoia. This is a very conservative U.S. attorney who said she could not abide the corruption of the new Trump administration's Department of Justice. Her resignation triggered a cascade of further resignations as 6 other veteran prosecutors refused in their turn to take part in this corrupt bargain. The officials included the acting head of the criminal division, several leaders of DOJ's public integrity section, and the lead prosecutor on the case from the Southern District, Hagan Scotton, a decorated veteran, and another Republican.
Hi, Teresa. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad everyone's here. Thank you so much for coming.
Stomach the thought of joining this plot and said in a letter for the ages that I will submit to the record that it would take a fool or a coward to join this plot against justice. The next day, an apparently exasperated Mr. Beauvais demanded that the career prosecutors in the public integrity section volunteer one lawyer to sign this disgraceful dismissal order, or there would be a mass firing of all of them. One lawyer set to retire agreed to sign the dismissal to protect his colleagues from this outrageous threat of collective mass punishment, something that would be more appropriate to Stalin's Russia than the United States of America. This eye-popping sellout of public integrity and public safety in New York wasn't even a secret. In a Fox News interview, Tom Homan, The Borders sat next to Mayor Adams and explicitly referred
Quid
to
pro
the
quo.
corrupt bargain, saying, quote, if he doesn't come through, I'll be back in New York and we won't be sitting on a couch. I'll be in his office, up his butt, saying, where the hell is the agreement we came to? Last Friday, the judge in the case at least provisionally refused to honor this dirty deal, instead appointing an independent monitor, Republican Paul Clement, to evaluate what should be done with the now orphaned 5-count criminal corruption indictment. Mr. Chairman, these facts are shocking. Blatant corruption, cover-up, mass resignations, threats, coercion. This, can you imagine what the Republican members of this committee would be saying if that happened under President Biden? If Joe Biden had done that for the corrupt Democratic mayor of New York City? My God. This toxic sweetheart deal demands a committee inquiry. Where is it? It's infinitely worse than any of the flotsam and jetsam the committee examined with the brainy intensity of Lieutenant Columbo in the last Congress. But the majority has asked no questions, written no letters, demanded no briefings, issued no subpoenas on this scandal. Why not? Why's the cat got your tongue? Well, this Adams debacle provides just a whiff of the raw sewage already overpouring the Department of Justice. They sacked dozens of prosecutors with superior credentials and evaluations simply for doing their jobs when they were assigned to work on the January 6th case. These people must get their jobs back under the civil service rules, which allow dismissal and discipline only for poor performance or misconduct, but the majority has not uttered a peep wondering about how such an appalling violation of the law and professional ethics has come to pass. Why not? Last Congress, you investigated the DOJ for allegedly hiring and firing employees based on political ideology. Nothing came of it. Now DOJ has openly fired dozens of career prosecutors, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, for the sole reason that they were assigned to work on the January 6th insurrection cases. In other words, for doing their jobs in a case that Donald Trump now considers uncomfortable for him. How is that remotely acceptable? Even Trump said on January 7th, in the wake of the vicious, premeditated attack on our police and our Congress and our Constitution, that it was a heinous attack. He said the demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defiled the seat of American democracy. To those who engage in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country. And to those who broke the law, he said, you will pay. Well, the only people paying now, after his pardons, are the prosecutors and FBI agents they're going after for doing their jobs. Because Donald Trump thinks it's too much truth. In an act of Orwellian revisionism that would make Joseph Stalin blush, Trump's team wants to punish hardworking prosecutors and FBI agents for doing the job they were told to do. If this is not weaponization of the Department of Justice, then what is, Mr. Chairman? It is far worse than the imaginary things floating around last Congress that led nowhere. When will we have a hearing on what is taking place for real in the Department of Justice right now?
Yeah.
They've hollowed out the career leadership ranks at DOJ, ravaging the offices that
How many people have actually been
public corruption
fired?
and terrorism.
How many
Now,
payments have actually
we
been
need
stopped?
Ed Martin, the new U.S. attorney in D.C., who's already proven himself to be
Ed Martin
legal ethics
is sending
Bobby Kennedy
threatening
is
letters to
public
congressmen
health.
telling them
He's
they
an
better not
election
say bad
denier
things about
who
Trump.
participated in the insurrectionary mass protest of January 6th, which he joyfully likened to Mardi Gras on the social media.
Yeah.
And until recently, very recently, in
Aw,
fact,
Jim, I'm
into
so
his term of
sorry.
office, he's been a defense lawyer of record in the courts for numerous January 6th criminal defendants. After taking over the U.S. Attorney's Office, he fired dozens of prosecutors, again, for doing their jobs, for prosecuting January 6 rioters. But DOJ ethics rules plainly require that he recuse himself because of this glaring conflict of interest created by his ongoing representation of private plaintiffs being prosecuted by the government. Naturally, the Trump DOJ forced out the senior ethics official, Brad Weinsheimer, who would have ruled on the matter, and replaced him with two inexperienced political appointees who apparently think it's okay, not just for the fox to guard the henhouse, but for the fox to simultaneously represent other foxes in court who have already ravaged the henhouse. Mr. Martin has literally made filings on both sides of January 6th cases as defense counsel for participants in the riot and now as a prosecutor dismissing the charges against the same defendants he was representing. When will there be a hearing on this? This is taking place right now. The list goes on. We don't have time to go through everything that's already happened, but I would encourage the chairman to please check out our report. This hearing was entitled Entering the Golden Age, Ending the Weaponization at the Department of Justice, a title that comes just in time to help us celebrate the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. Well, perhaps the title's referring to a golden age for corrupt billionaires or lawless oligarchs and violent white nationalists, but it's no golden age for the Department of Justice, which is now mired in corruption and lawlessness, halting corruption prosecutions, disbanding the anti-corruption task forces, and purging veteran prosecutors and agents who are dedicated to public safety and have superior performance evaluations, but have run afoul of the new political correctness imposed on the department. Chairman Jordan has championed our power under Article 1 to ensure that the Department of Justice upholds the rule of law for all, without fear or favor. Good for him. I don't need to quote his eloquent speeches for you on this subject. We know them well. So I ask this committee to be true to our own beautiful words. Let's not use our oversight power selectively. Let's investigate these startling developments so dangerous to justice in America. And let's start with the dirty deal with Mayor Adams, which has now put a giant worm in the Big Apple. Mr. Chairman, I would invite you to join us in sending this letter today to Attorney General Bondi demanding specific answers on her shocking abuse of prosecutorial power, the shocking abuse of prosecutorial power that has taken place at DOJ in the whole Mayor Adams matter, and I would think that the committee should move very quickly to have a hearing on this next week. Thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member. Real quickly, Pam Bondi will be here for the Committee of the Whole, I'm sure, and members also will meet some of her staff and ranking people. They will be at this committee as well. I would maintain the attorneys were removed not because they were doing a great job, because they weren't doing their job.
Oh my God, you don't get to say something every time someone says something, you stupid fuck.
Mr. Raskin, I believe you want
Fucking
to
hate this
something in the
guy.
record?
Yes, please. Two things. One is the letter to Attorney General Bondi, and the other is our new report, President Trump's New Gilded Age, how Trump's Department of Justice is promoting political and corporate corruption to benefit
Without
his most loyal
objection.
supporters.
Without objection. Without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record. We will now introduce today's witnesses. First, Mr. Chris Swecker. Mr. Swecker is a former FBI agent who retired as the Assistant Director of the Criminal Investigations Unit. He served with the Bureau for 24 years. It's a while. He currently practices law in the great state of North Carolina. Mr. Jonathan Fahey. Mr. Fahey is a partner with Holtzman Vogel, where his practice focuses on investigations in white-collar criminal defense. He previously served in various roles in the Department of Homeland Security and as a prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Virginia. Mr. Peter Breen. Mr. Breen is the Executive Vice President and Head of Litigation at the Thomas More Society, a public interest law firm focused on constitutional rights. Mr. Breen successfully defended Mark Houck, a pro-life advocate, against FACE Act charges brought by the Biden Harris administration.
Oh, fuck off. Again, they only have like two things they can talk about, and they're years old.
Department for 5 years.
So dumb. Oh, good. Resistance. Yes, I want to read that.
By swearing you in, please rise. Raise your right hand.
Thank you for that. I got to get in my habit.
Affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you are about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief. So help you God. Okay, you may be seated. Let the record reflect that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. Please know that your written testimony will be entered into the record in its entirety. Accordingly, we ask that you summarize your testimony in 5 minutes.
A lot of Tory letters.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Ranking Member and members of the subcommittee. It is an honor to appear at this hearing today. As mentioned, I have over 42 years of active experience in the criminal justice system as a prosecutor, as an agent, and as an attorney. And that informs my testimony today. I served under 7 FBI directors, 7 attorney generals. While attorney generals are cabinet appointments,
Attorney
and
generals?
politics goes with the position.
Really?
This should not be the case with the FBI director, who has a 10-year term that was designed to insulate the position from politics. Indeed,
Have
during
you
my
met
24
Cash
years in the
Patel?
FBI, I can attest that politics did not drive the initiation or conduct of any investigation, and cases were not pursued for political purposes. Sadly, that has not been the case at the DOJ and FBI since at least 2016. And I'm not here to convey my political views. I know how federal investigations flow, however, and I know the laws, policies, and procedures that govern FBI and DOJ operations. I am familiar with the works of the committee, this committee, as well as the DOJ Inspector General Horowitz, Special Counsel Durham, and all the relevant investigations from Crossfire Hurricane to the Mar-a-Lago raid. Many official actions taken by DOJ and FBI in the last 8 years were simply wrong. And I share the goals of this subcommittee that these agencies should never again be used as political weapons.
Oh, what if people break the law, sir?
DOJ and its agencies have effectively
I don't know
been
what's
used as
going on with this
political
sound. I
weapons.
really apologize.
This has taken the form of selective and hyper-aggressive prosecutions of political
I think there's
opponents,
something wrong with the
while
audio
slow-walking
there.
and even sabotaging investigations of favored political figures. There's been coordination with and even funding of state prosecutions of Donald Trump. There has been use of some of the most intrusive techniques available against political opponents of Joe Biden, and injection of personal animus and political views into investigations and prosecutions. Much of this weaponization was driven by an entrenched group of ideologues within the DOJ and FBI in perfect alignment with the Biden administration.
And yet, here we are. And yet, Mr. Sweatballs, here we are.
Well-known example is
Tell me,
Crossfire
Mr.
Hurricane, a
Sweatballs,
notoriously
how does that
unpredicated
work?
investigation of the 2016 Trump
He wasn't an
presidential
FBI. He
campaign
called. He
tainted
also
by
called them
FISA surveillance orders
attorney generals.
based on deliberately
Okay,
false information.
this guy's a fucking
contained
idiot.
in opposition research. This was accompanied by an
Oh my
unprecedented
God.
infiltration of the campaign by multiple informants. Crossfire Hurricane further involved the potential entrapment of a cabinet-level appointee based on the pretext of an introductory intelligence briefing, and rather than target the Russian influencers and protect the unwitting campaign operatives, the FBI targeted the
George
Trump presidential
Papadopoulos?
campaign
Yeah, now
through
dude
those
Charles
operatives.
McGonigal.
Note that when similar information was developed about the Hillary Clinton campaign,
Oh
she was
my
immediately afforded
God.
a defensive briefing. Undeterred by the misconduct
Did
identified
Cash
in
show you the
DOJ,
Crossfire Hurricane stuff? Is
IG
that what you're talking
Horowitz and
about?
Special Counsel Durham reports regarding
Oh
Crossfire
my
Hurricane, many
God.
of the same DOJ and FBI managers opened and pursued a classified
Hey, you
documents
tried.
case on
You
the
tried,
former
sweetie.
president
You tried, and
presidential
they were
candidate,
acquitted.
culminating in the dawn raid
They were
of his personal
acquitted.
residence.
They were
This was
acquitted.
ostensibly to execute a search warrant.
He stole documents.
and
Oh
was
wait, hold on.
conducted
I got
despite
you. I got you,
ongoing
bitch.
negotiations
I got
regarding
you.
the
Hold on.
declassification and
I got
possible
you,
return of the
bitch.
documents.
I got you, cunt.
After the raid, it was disclosed that Biden had squirreled away classified
I got you,
documents
bitch.
himself.
Squirreled away.
In another
Fuck
example,
you.
the inexplicably
Fuck this
tepid
traitor.
DOJ-controlled FBI investigation
So
of the
mad. I
Biden
hate
family
people. I
influence
hate people
peddling
so much
schemes,
sometimes.
Despite the existence of over 170 bank suspicious activity reports,
Oh
multiple
my
witnesses, 20 offshore corporations.
Ask Lev Parnas. Ask Lev
19
Parnas.
million in potentially illicit
Ask Lev Parnas.
proceeds,
Boy, you guys pick
and
your
shadow-
fucking
from
facts, don't
hostile
you?
and corrupt foreign governments,
You
oligarchs,
pick your
and shadowy
fucking
international
facts.
characters seeking official favors,
Don't you, you
and a
stupid
laptop
cunt.
full of evidence. The investigation languished.
You're full of shit.
It doesn't take a
I'm
Mensa
gonna
candidate
find
to
you.
surmise that serious
Really,
criminal
you're gonna be
activity
really
was
mad in a
afoot
minute.
that extended
How'd that
well
go?
beyond a garden variety tax and firearms
this?
case. The case was plagued by interference by DOJ,
Dang
attempts
it.
to slow walk
Oh,
the
it's the
investigation
fucking
past the
show. Damn
statute
it.
of limitations,
That's
and a
not what I
deceptive
wanted.
effort to discredit the laptop. It took an alert federal
Oh
judge
my
to expose
God.
the clever attempt to implement a global plea bargain hidden in a plea agreement to a single firearm charge. The contrast with the multiple scorched earth investigation targeting Donald Trump should be clear to pretty much anyone that's being objective. Since I'm running out of time, I ask that you introduce my full statement into the record. Thank you. And I want to also add, I'm not here in any official capacity.
Oh,
for the
you're not?
FBI. As you mentioned, I retired from the FBI, so I'm here as a concerned citizen.
Oh, fuck you, bitch.
Thank you, Mr.
Fuck
Sweatman.
you.
Without
Concerned
objection,
about
we will
traitors?
introduce
How the hell?
Of all of you.
How the hell do you sleep at night?
Permanent record. Mr. Fahey, you may begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
I'm going to leave that up there, but I'm going to make it smaller.
Members of the subcommittee, I thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Jonathan Fahey, and I'm a partner at
Mr. Fahey, I
Put your
believe mic
fucking
is not
microphone on, stupid.
Is it on?
Now, some folks might not like that, but we want to hear
I'm
you.
so mad at these guys.
You didn't miss anything at the beginning.
I hate
I'm
you
a
guys.
partner of a law firm of Holtz
Sorry,
and Vogel.
my mouse doesn't
But
work.
most of my career practice in law, I served as a prosecutor both as a state and federal
What is
level.
this?
And during this time, I had the opportunity to work with numerous
What the fuck
hardworking
is
men and
this?
women of law enforcement,
Jimmy
fellow
Neutron
prosecutors.
reject.
Because of my experience, I have immense respect for members of the law enforcement community who every day make sacrifices
I'm
on
sorry,
behalf
yeah.
of all of us.
Jimmy
A lot of
Neutron.
times,
Who
things
is fucked
that
up
go
Jimmy
unnoticed
Neutron?
and probably should be recognized more often.
Fucked
By
up
and
Jimmy
large,
Neutron.
I found that both state and federal
And in junior
law
high,
enforcement
Heather said she didn't
agents
want to go to the dance with me, and
adhere to
I'm
the
mad
highest
about it.
ethical standards, have an unwavering commitment to justice and to public safety.
I didn't
My
see
work
the
with fellow
thing, but I heard
prosecutors
about
is
the
similar. I
report,
wanna
Jim, about the
basically
planes
echo
in
what Mr. Swicker
O'Hare.
said. I work with some of the finest attorneys at the Eastern District of Virginia.
I wish Sean
We work
Duffy would
side by
stop
side on
crashing
cases,
planes.
big and small. I worked as an assistant U.S. attorney under
Yeah, that's
President
right.
Bush
I said it.
43, President
I'm holding
Obama,
Sean Duffy responsible for any
President Trump.
aviation accidents.
And during these times, even though some priorities would change, I never saw any
Sean, do you want the job or not?
politicization, and often I didn't really know what the politics were of my colleagues, other than occasionally in private conversations. I was extremely proud of the work I did as a prosecutor, and I'm grateful for the opportunity I had to stand up in court to advocate on behalf of victims and stand and say my name on behalf of the United States. In addition to that, I gained amazing professional experiences, many friends in law enforcement, fellow prosecutors, defense attorneys, courtroom personnel, and it's an experience I wouldn't trade for anything. One of the most important things I learned, which I think is relevant here, is the tremendous responsibility that comes from being a prosecutor with every decision you make and how many people
To
will be
abdicate
affected
on
by
behalf
those
of
decisions.
You put the plane
Sadly,
video on
the
my
last
DM. Thank you, Teresa.
administration, I believe, changed the prosecutor's role, and instead of focusing on public safety issues, they focus on political agendas and to advance the political agenda.
We haven't got there yet, Carrie.
This manifested itself in many of the cases the chairman spoke about earlier, and it led to a severe distrust in the criminal justice system and the FBI. Meanwhile, Americans became less safe because the focus was on political agenda rather than public safety issues. One of the most egregious example that's been referenced a lot, but I think it's important here, is the investigation into the school boards or the parents speaking out at the school boards.
Oh my God, Mr. Fahey, do you know what the term grassroots
One, it's
or
towards the beginning of the Biden
sorry,
administration, so it sort of set the
astroturf
tone.
means?
But the other part is this occurred
Hi,
in
peace, love.
October of
All right,
2021
yes.
when the
girl.
the election in Virginia as well as
We
in
got
New
shit.
Jersey, the most
It's
critical
multiplying.
issue, most important issue was school issues involving
I saw
COVID
Oomph on the hunt
policy
for that
as well as
report. Hell
curriculum.
yeah.
With some
get that
information
Raskin
about
report.
threats that came in, I think there's dispute about how it came in, but a lot of information that may have come in from teachers' unions and things like that. The Attorney General of the United States created a task force for these parents that consisted of the criminal division of DOJ, the Civil Rights Division, the National Security Division, the Executive Office of U.S. Attorneys, the FBI, the Community Relations
see it,
Service, which
yeah.
I didn't know existed, the Office
I
of
know, it's
Justice
time to get my
Programs.
hands out. Where are they?
He also ordered the U.S. attorneys, each U.S. attorney,
got
to
'em.
convene meetings with local officials to supposedly learn more about these threats, and this was within 30 days of his memo, which was early October. Coincidentally, the election with the biggest issue on the table was November of that year. After all of this attention, there was not
Wait.
a single federal prosecution that was brought as a result. However, the harm to the system and to the individuals was profound. The specter of law enforcement investigating what you say at a school board meeting not only intimidated parents that have spoken up, that may have wanted to speak up, but also marginalized them so other people that might agree with their stance, when they see them labeled as terrorists, it would have a political impact. So That is one of the things
Yeah,
I
they
think
were
is
getting
most
threats.
egregious
That's right.
about
Did you
the
see the
weaponization.
Did you
I
see
know
the
my
frightening
time is
situations
near,
in every
but
school board
in all
meeting?
of
I
these
watched them.
cases,
They
the
were
Department of
frightening.
Justice had to
And
make
guess what?
decisions.
No
Whether
school
it's January
administrator should have
6th,
to deal with
whether
that.
it's
No
the
parent should have to
protests
deal with
outside
that.
of Supreme
Period.
Court justices' homes, whether or not where to put your resources. Do you put them into public safety, or do you prosecute the 1,500th person that came in the Capitol on January 6th? While carjackers were not being prosecuted, while murderers were not being investigated fully.
What?
And
Mr.
that's really the
Fahey,
issue here.
wake up,
the American
shithead.
people suffered during the last 4 years because crime was higher.
No, it wasn't.
And it was higher.
No, it
in
wasn't.
many
We had a whole
respects
hearing
because
on
the
that
attention was
stupid
not
ass.
focused on what affected
Yep,
the
we had a whole
community.
hearing on it.
Going
You were
forward,
wrong. They were
I hope this
revised.
new Department of Justice
There was an
will
explanation.
focus on issues from the bottom
Oh,
up.
here we go. Wait.
to
I've got
not
this guy.
politicize
What am I thinking?
anything,
I've
to
got this
focus on
guy.
what affects people day to day on the street, whether it's fentanyl trafficking, gangs, human trafficking, other crimes of violence. I believe if they do that, the American people will be well served.
Yeah.
They will be safer, and they will restore. This will restore credibility for the Justice
Nothing
Department and the
more
justice system as a whole.
than
I thank you for your time.
Maggots have
Thank you, Mr.
some
Fahey. Mr. Breen, you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member, and members of the committee. As noted ahead of, I'm honored to lead the society's
Wait, do we not
national
have a
litigation
minority
team.
witness?
Dedicated professionals work
Wait, what?
in states
What do we have in
and
here?
federal courts across the country to defend the constitutional rights and really the rights of every American.
Well, who are you
Relevant
talking?
to
Who's talking?
today's hearing is noted. I'm proud to have led the defense of Mark Houck for the society, and our team has represented dozens of other pro-life Americans against the unprecedented assault on them by the Biden Department of Justice. Numerous criminal prosecutions have brought civil cases across the country. The Biden DOJ engaged in a systematic campaign to abuse the power of the federal
just
government
can't
against
let
pro-life
those
advocates, while that same DOJ ignored hundreds of acts of vandalism and violence against pro-life churches, pregnancy help centers, and other advocates. On behalf of our clients and the pro-life movement as a whole, we're thankful to President Trump for his recent pardons and to the members of this House who supported that effort. Those pardons sent a powerful message to the country and especially to the millions of Americans in the pro-life movement that the federal government should not be weaponized against Americans because of their sincere
How do I do
beliefs
that
in the
one?
sanctity of human life. We're grateful as well for the actions of the Trump DOJ, its chief of staff, who issued the memorandum directing the
That's not
dismissal
right.
of prosecutions and civil lawsuits against our clients. And that memo highlighted the fact that the Biden DOJ selectively prosecuted and enforced the law against our folks while ignoring the many acts on the other side.
Oh,
You may
here
have
we go.
heard some of the stories of these advocates. There's Paul Vaughn, the evangelical Christian father of 11, whose children were outside waiting to go to school when heavily armed federal agents rolled up, held his kids at bay as other agents then arrested their father. Paul didn't even block access to a clinic. He was there to give moral and spiritual support who did. But still, the DOJ charged him with a FACE Act violation and a felony conspiracy against human rights.
Can I not do that?
While he escaped prison time, others did not. Because of that conspiracy against rights felony, we've had numerous clients who received multiple-year prison sentences,
Well, here, we'll just do one note.
especially in Washington, D.C. You heard about Mark Houck.
Feelings, nothing more
20
than
federal agents at dawn
feelings.
directed their guns at him and his
Trying to
took him away in
forget
handcuffs. The thing
his
is, we
feelings
offered to
so
present Mark
real.
to the prosecution. And had he been anybody but Mark Houck, he would have been allowed
No
to do so.
facts,
Instead, they
just
spent those law enforcement resources creating an incredibly dangerous
feelings.
situation
I
on
never
his
really
front lawn outside
felt
of
this
Philadelphia.
way.
Now,
My
we did beat the Biden
feelings so
DOJ in the Mark Houck case,
real.
winning that unanimous not guilty verdict from the full jury.
Flying.
And after that win, the DOJ
missing
from
lots
Biden did
of
not prosecute another sidewalk
context.
counselor. You see, because at the same time, you may not have
Trying
heard,
to
Biden DOJ was
spin
investigating numerous
this
other sidewalk scuffles at
so
abortion
you
facilities
will
coast to coast. We had numerous clients contacted by the FBI in connection with those incidents, and had we not won for Mark and won so definitively and publicly,
I hope
we are
you
sure that
think
there
my
would have been a wave of House-style prosecutions,
feelings are
federalizing minor sidewalk
facts. I
scuffles.
never let them go.
But now that the president has acted, the DOJ's cleaned
My
out, and our
feelings
clients' criminal
so
records are wiped clean. Was the matter concluded?
real.
Absolutely not. Because of the actions
Lying.
of the Biden DOJ, which mirrored
Nothing more
the
than
actions of the Obama
lying.
DOJ, sort of
I don't know how to
Damocles
play this
still
thing.
hangs over pro-life advocates. There are long statutes of limitations on these federal laws. So folks remain
Sean
in
Duffy doing a
fear
great
that some
job.
future administration
Whoop, whoop.
will twist the law and come after them. You know, some of those Biden prosecutions were for actions under that were taken under the first Trump administration. And the DOJ's recent dismissals weren't.
I think
were
things
ordered
are
on the
going
basis
really
of
great
selective
for the new
prosecution
administration. I
and
just
did not
want to
necessarily
say.
recognize that the
It
underlying
sounds like
laws
it's all
don't
going
apply
just
to the
according to
conduct.
plan.
And so, of course, while we
Hold on,
urge the
I'll
Congress
show
to repeal
you.
the FACE Act, which is selectively and illegally enforced, we do have several other concrete steps that we recommend. First off, as noted, this committee is very much needed because you need, respectfully, to continue to investigate and expose the misuse of the FBI and DOJ over the past 4 years against pro-life Americans. Sunlight, asbestos, infectant. And this subcommittee has a lot of light to bring. Second, we would ask that you urge the Trump administration to bring to justice those who committed the violence and vandalism.
Yeah, you can get to see him.
if the FACE
Okay,
Act's
hold
remain
on,
on
because
the
I'm going to
books,
show
it
you
should be enforced
something that Teresa just sent me,
third,
and
there are
Jim,
some
thank
very
you, or
concrete
someone
things
else
that
pointed
the
this out.
DOJ can do
I
to
never remember
properly
things. I'm
define
very
the scope
bad
of
at
the
that.
FACE Act
Hold
and the
on.
conspiracy
Oops,
against
that's not
rights
it.
statutes. They can take formal written
That's it.
positions
Nope,
on
that's
those
not it.
laws
Nope, that's it.
that will help to prevent this going forward.
In for a land day.
First off,
Watch
recognize
this
that
here.
Congress intended the FACE Act
Well,
not to apply to sidewalk squabbles. That was agreed to by Senator Ted Kennedy. It's on the record.
Can you
From
guys
over
see
30
that?
years
Oh,
ago,
wait.
they agreed to that.
Why can't
as
you see
part
the
of
video?
passing this act, but it's been wiped away and ignored ever since. That needs to be recognized. Second, we need to make clear the FACE Act's physical
there.
obstruction
Here we
doesn't
go.
apply
This is the
to
video.
peaceable counseling activity.
Landing, 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 landing. Zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, zooming in. Oh shit! There's a plane coming on. Not landing. Not landing.
And again,
Not landing.
Recognize that
Not
FACE can't be applied to
landing.
others who are not actually blocking the clinic.
Here we go
without
one more
running afoul
time.
of the First
Landing,
Amendment.
landing,
And
landing,
fourth,
landing,
get rid of this
landing, landing,
conspiracy against
landing,
rights
landing,
statute
landing,
application,
landing.
because
Now
its
camera
10-year felony
zooms in,
provisions
zooming,
cannot be applied to
zooming,
pro-life
landing,
advocates.
landing,
Thank you,
landing. Holy shit,
Thank you,
there's
Mr. Breen.
someone
Mr. Ballou, you may begin.
crossing.
Thank you.
Not landing.
As mentioned,
Yeah,
my
alert
name is
pilot.
Brennan Ballou. I serve for in the Justice
I don't know
Department's
why that
National
is
Security
doing that.
and
I'm so
Antitrust
sorry.
Divisions, and for 2 years was detailed to prosecute crimes stemming from the attack on the Capitol. It's important to remember that approximately 140 police
going really
officers
well, don't
were
you think?
assaulted by rioters on January 6, 2021. One officer told me that he feared for his life more that day than during his entire deployment to Afghanistan in 2001. Another told me that he texted his family that afternoon because he expected to die. The work we did was about getting justice for those officers. But justice is only possible when federal prosecutors have credibility. And I want to explain how the Justice Department built that credibility over many decades and how it's being destroyed in a matter of weeks. After Watergate and the Nixon administration, Congress and the executive built protections to make it less likely that the department's powers would be abused. The offices of professional responsibility and inspector general were created. The department limited communications with the White House, and FBI officials began regularly testifying before congressional committees like this one. Investigations into activists were largely ended, and the department refocused its energy on public corruption. In the past month, the administration has largely destroyed these reforms and refocused the department away from prosecuting the corrupt and towards favoring friends and investigating enemies.
Excellent,
To
Oren.
give just a few
I love
examples,
you.
most obviously, the president pardoned nearly 1,600 rioters who stormed the Capitol and its grounds in the president's name, including rioters whom I helped prosecute, who punched officers, who dragged them into the crowd, and who speared them with flagpoles.
This guy is
The acting
brave.
D.C. U.S. attorneys threatened investigations into various perceived enemies of the administration, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and former Special Counsel Jack Smith. The department has largely stopped enforcing the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which prohibits bribery, prosecuting cases under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which prohibits secret work on behalf of a foreign power, or pursuing the work of the Klepto-Capture Task Force, which enforced sanctions against Russian oligarchs. The administration also threatened to fire the attorneys of the Public Integrity Section, who prosecute corrupt politicians. Now, there's now an effort to draw a false equivalency between these actions over the last month
Don't you want to
and
just
those of
like
recent
run your fingers through his hair? No, I'm
Either to
kidding.
argue that what is happening now is nothing new, or that if it is, it's deserved retribution. This attempt at equivalence, however, is a mistake for two reasons. First, a weaponized Justice Department endangers anyone involved in politics, no matter their political persuasion. Since the president pardoned the Capitol rioters, FBI agents have been subject to personal and specific threats of violence. But these threats have no party limits. Just this weekend at a conservative political conference, speakers considered insufficiently loyal to the president were threatened and told that pipe bombs had been planted in the building. Second, a weaponized Justice Department corrupts all of society. It makes life
I'm
harder
sorry.
and more expensive
Wait,
for
what?
people far from politics.
What?
For instance, the Wall Street Journal reports that executives at Twitter recently demanded that a company advertise on its platform and intimated that the government might stop or slow a proposed merger if it did not. This is an attempt to use the tools of the Justice Department to enrich one politically connected business, and it's how an oligarchy is created. The actions of the past month should concern us all, largely ending foreign bribery and corruption cases, and threatening to fire public corruption prosecutors, investigating political enemies while putting political friends above the law. These are all efforts to return us to the time of Watergate, and it harms you no matter your political beliefs. The only people who will
He's
benefit
my
from
guy.
these actions will
That's
be
for
billionaire
sure.
criminals. And for them, this will be a golden age.
This is when I love lawyers.
Thank you, Mr. Ballou. We're now going to proceed under the 5-minute rule with questions, and the chair will recognize the gentleman from Alabama, Barry Moore.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the witnesses being here today. The Biden-Harris DOJ enabled hyper-partisan prosecutors, in particular, former special counsel Jack Smith, to criminalize politics in America.
Okay.
Smith's approach to prosecutorial process raised many concerns among experts related to what his actions would mean to the future of the DOJ. In addition to his storied investigations Smith personally led, he also coordinated with Fannie Willis to help with her politically motivated prosecution of President Trump. Willis was also given disproportionate
Your mic
assistance
is
from
hot.
the January 6th committee, receiving records simultaneously withheld from us in Congress and law enforcement. Meanwhile, Matthew Colangelo, an attorney known for waging lawfare against Trump during his
he's
first term
not.
as president,
Feelings.
left the elite position at the Biden-Harris DOJ to work with the Manhattan District Attorney by the name of Alvin Bragg, where he led the prosecution of President Trump.
People get to move
Mr.
jobs.
Fahey,
It
what
doesn't
are your
matter.
thoughts
Well, how'd
generally
it
on the
go? How'd it
investigations
go?
led by former special
Who's the
counsel
president
Jack
now?
Smith?
Who's the president?
Generally, they
So
were,
how'd it go for him?
You know, I would
Mission
characterize them
accomplished.
as heavy-handed
dang it, no.
in all respects. And, you know, you look at this from, you know, which is sort of the point I was trying to make, is when you're doing something, when you're focusing on something, you're not focusing on something else. But it's also heavy-handed to the way other cases are prosecuted by the Justice Department.
Yeah.
And I think the best example
Somebody
of
check
the
his
Jack
hard
Smith
drive.
case is compare that to
Why are we
how
doing
Robert
that?
Hur handled
What's wrong with the
President
camera
Biden. You
people?
have, just when you focus on Mar-a-Lago, you have President Biden who, when he was in the Senate, managed to get a hold of classified information that shows up at his house. When he was vice president,
So is what about
left
Mike
office
Pence?
and managed to keep classified information. He kept this in his home. He kept this at the Biden Center. I think there was one other location. Robert Hur wrote a report describing all that. More than ample evidence. He described.
No,
his
it wasn't
cognitive
actually because he
deficiencies, but
actually didn't make
there were no
any
heavy-handed
recommendations, Jimmy.
measures taken. That wasn't interview everyone until the cows come home. And ultimately, he came to a measured decision for conduct that arguably is more egregious than what President Trump did, because President Trump allegedly, all of the classified information that he allegedly had, he was allowed to have it at the beginning. President Biden, at the time, was never allowed to have this information.
Sir,
he was also
you're
treated
wrong.
Quite a bit differently when he turned
You
in the
are
information.
incorrect.
When it first came about, which was before the election of 2022, the Justice Department kept that quiet. He turns it in through his lawyer, and then
These guys do
proceeded
somersaults
turn
to
in
lick
more
those
information
balls.
over the
I am
period
telling
of
you,
the
he
next couple of months,
stands
I
on
think
his
until about
hands
December.
so that
Why
he
that's
can reach
important,
under
nobody raided his home.
whatever
Nobody
that
did any
fupa
heavy-handed
is
moves. They let him
that
put
Trump
it in
has,
at his convenience
and he
as
can
his
gargle
leisure.
the balls.
And ultimately,
He
was
gargles the
They
balls.
did a consent search because it seemed like every time he turned around, there's more classified information in his house. So, and then you compare that to
I have an
President
idea.
Trump, with they were negotiating with NARA. They were in a far
They
more
weren't
secure
negotiation.
location
Oh
than
my
his
God,
garage.
you really
And then
think this shit is
have-
real.
And how
Wow,
was
I
that
hope you
treated?
get
They
your
ran up in
payoff. I
his
wonder what's
house.
on your
They're
tape.
searching, you know, his wife's, where she keeps her clothes and intimate clothing and things like that
Oh,
to get items.
my
And it was always under the
God.
guise that this is so serious to get these items back because our national security is at risk. But when it was Biden,
There's
it was
balls
like,
for me.
In the garage,
There's
around
balls
the
for
car,
you.
just
and
sort
open
of-
boxes was fine.
Yeah, just swing it by when you have a chance. You know?
Sure. So, are you familiar with the 2013 IRS
Sorry,
scandal
those are balls.
that targeted conservative nonprofit organizations?
Gargle the balls.
Familiar
The
with that?
Lois Learner?
Yes, and then
Yeah,
actually,
I am, but not intimately.
Yeah,
Well,
so
I
don't
understand
comment
Jack
on
Smith
it.
actually, he encouraged the Department of Justice to contact IRS and continue that process of going after those conservatives wherever they may be. And Mr. Swecker, I know you served with the FBI for some time, and I appreciate your service. What about the raid to Mar-a-Lago to you stood out? I know we had some other FBI officials testify and tell us what they thought. And so, as we look through this process, what about it to you stood out?
I love it. I love it.
The fact that they did it at all. I mean, there's a lot of discretion in investigations. There's a lot of discretion in prosecutions. I was a prosecutor. I've been an
Sorry,
agent.
I know that's credit growth.
I know it from both angles. And I just think it was never in the best interest of the American public for them to, during negotiations, where there were a lot of issues that were being discussed between lawyers, the information, the documents were secure, and they weren't going anywhere. Unlike Hillary Clinton's server, which was the least secure place you could ever store information, is on a server that anybody can get to.
I thought it was interesting they handled it from the Washington field office rather than the Miami field office, and they raided his home, and I kind of thought that was rather unusual.
Highly unusual, and that search was conducted over the objection of the assistant director in charge of the Washington field office.
Mr. Chairman, I'm out of time. I'll yield back.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I do have a UC request.
Ah.
I'd ask for unanimous consent. I'd like to enter into the record the full transcript with Stephen D.
I know what year is
I may be
this?
saying that incorrectly. Antuano, the assistant director in charge of FBI's Washington field office.
Without objection.
Thank you so much. I've got one more, sorry. I'd also like to introduce an article titled Donald Trump Stored, Showed Off, and Refused to Return Classified Documents.
I got to be
Without
right back.
objection.
The water delivery guy is here. Hold on.
Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Georgia for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank the witnesses for your testimony today. Let's see. You know, Trump is purging experienced career civil servants and filling their roles with inexperienced sycophants who will do whatever they are told to do, no matter how unlawful or unconstitutional the ask. And the American people are focused on that real threat to our democracy and to the rule of law that is poised by this Trump administration. And so they are too smart to be distracted by Republicans' tired conspiracy theories. And that is exactly what we're getting today. Now, Mr. Ballou, you're familiar with Danielle Sassoon, are you
I am,
not?
sir.
And you know her to be a Federalist Society member?
She is.
A former law clerk to Antonin Scalia?
She is.
Anti-LGBTQ rights, anti-civil rights, a blazing right-wing extremist. Isn't that correct?
He was an extremely conservative jurist.
And no, I'm talking about Danielle Sassoon.
I can't speak to Ms. Sassoon's personal opinions about those specific legal issues.
She is, as you described, Justice Scalia. But even she could not stomach the prospect of being a party to a quid pro quo in the Eric Adams case, could she?
No, sir.
You know, dropping charges for illegitimate reasons. She didn't want to have a hand in that. She was too principled to participate in that. And because we know that when you drop charges against someone for a illegitimate purpose, a quid pro quo, Eric Adams, to force him over a barrel to carry out your deportation political agenda in return for dropping the charges against him eventually, but hanging it over his head with a dismissal without prejudice. she did not want to be a party to such an illegitimate bargain. And we know that if you'll drop a charge, you'll also institute charges for political purposes, for illegitimate purposes. Is that not the essence of weaponizing the Justice Department?
Yeah, absolutely, sir. You know, the concern here is that criminal prosecutions would be used to achieve unrelated policy objectives in the case of the Eric Adams scandal. You know, the reason that we don't do that is because the powers of prosecutors are so vast that once that happens, people will follow government directives not because they want to or believe in it, but simply because they fear retribution if they don't.
Thank you. In your testimony, you talked about how this administration has corrupted the guardrails that existed in the Department of Justice with respect to reforms put in place after the abuse during the Republican Nixon administration. And you talked about how guardrails that would have been destroyed insofar as favoring friends of this administration. What did you mean by that specifically?
Yeah. Well, I think we're seeing this in the Wall Street Journal reporting about potentially X or Twitter trying to get advertisers back on their site, and if they don't, well, then the government will investigate them and potentially stop a merger.
The co-president of the United States, who, by the way, was unelected and hails from apartheid South Africa, trying to leverage his position as co-president to gain something for his platform that spews mis- and disinformation publicly.
And when the government is used in that way, it harms everybody, far from politics, because it increases prices and it interferes with the free economy.
Yeah, I can't think of a greater threat to democracy than a guy like Elon Musk set free or set loose by a president, Donald Trump, who was duly elected but has outsourced now and privatized his administration to a oligarch billionaire and his other billionaire buddies. With that, I'll yield back.
Okay. I'm going to recognize myself for 5 minutes.
I miss the smart guy.
Mr. Swecker, when did you first become aware of the FBI's memo targeting traditional Roman Catholics?
Oh my God.
Well, I don't know the exact date,
Are
but it
there
was
any
when
traditional
it hit
Roman
the press.
Catholics
I mean,
anymore?
as soon
Is
as it
that
hit the
Opus
press,
Dei?
I mean, I found out about it when everybody else did.
Did you get the opportunity to review the memo, that came from the Virginia field office? Did you take a look at it?
I did. I don't remember all the details in it, but it was a very ill-advised memo.
Did it strike you?
Yeah, of course it did.
In a bad way?
I think
How
it would
many
strike
years ago now
anybody
was
in
that?
a bad way. I'm Catholic, not that that matters, but just
Apparently it
singling out
matters a whole
religion and
fuck
religious
ton.
beliefs
It's
in the
Mr.
way that they
Sweaty
did.
Balls.
I mean, frankly, though, I don't know how much play that really got further up the food chain, but it was it just demonstrated incredibly poor judgment.
We asked the then Attorney General about it. We asked the then FBI Director about it. They both, in essence, apologized, but it said it was only limited to the Virginia field office. Then, fortunately,
Oh my
there were
God, you are
good
living in
information.
past
It wasn't only
history,
limited. This was
Elf,
starting to go
Keebler Elf.
throughout the country. Thank God. we
Wait, where's a
found out
Keebler
about
Elf?
it.
Do I have
and
one?
As I said before,
I wonder.
my good Hindu
I don't
friends,
know.
men of peace, that people, human beings of peace, have never.
What are you
do
talking
anything
about?
Harmful. If it happened to Roman Catholics, and I happen to be Roman
What are you
Catholic as
talking
well,
about?
it can happen to anyone.
I think it does reflect that there were some ideologues deep in the it wasn't
It
just the
does.
leadership in the
It
Bureau.
does. You can't believe otherwise. I mean, it just
Yeah,
didn't
because,
make
you know,
sense. It was
that'd be
shocking for
silly
America.
if
Do you
we
believe the
believed
memo
otherwise.
infringed on Americans' rights under our Constitution to some degree?
Absolutely, especially if they had followed through on it aggressively,
And
like they
the
did other
memo
things.
stated, let me
wonder
read
if I
this, I'm
can-
quoting now, catalyzing events in which regionally motivated violent extremists.
Do you not know what words
radical
mean,
tradition-
Keebler Elf?
Traditional Catholics. I'm not sure what the hell that means, to be honest with you.
They were
but-
calling them domestic terrorists.
Yeah.
Oh, my
essentially.
God.
I don't know. I try to go to mass when I can. I honest to God, I don't see too many, I don't see any domestic terrorists there.
Well, you're
They
not
said they
looking
might have
hard
a
enough,
common
sweetie,
clause,
because you should
clause
look at,
including
pull up a
legislation
mirror.
or judicial decisions in areas such as abortion rights, immigration, affirmative action, and LGBTQ protections. Isn't that their right? And is it typical for the FBI to dig into something like that?
Not
Yeah,
the FBI I
actually.
served under. And I mean,
We didn't
I think
investigate
Chris
any
really made a lot
civil
of
rights.
mistakes, but
Wait
he
a minute.
apologized for that one. I think that's one that got away from, should never even.
I think they were
Wait
even
a minute.
shocked that they had that level of
Wait a minute.
dialogue, actually. And I know, I believe that they were being
Insert the
sincere.
word Muslim
I know
and
the
yellow.
Attorney General at the time almost cried. Maybe he did a little bit, actually. Do you think the
Yellow tie
FBI
would
needs
be right
stricter
behind it.
controls over how these bulletins are created and distributed? Hopefully they will
Yeah.
now.
Do you work at the
I do.
FBI?
I mean, it's a lot
Do
of
you
it's
work at the
judgment
FBI?
based, and it's
Do you
who
think
you hire
you should
and
work at the
and the
FBI?
examples that are set at the top of the.
You need
in
a
this case,
haircut.
the FBI.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
I mean,
Here's what's
you
bothering
can't-
me.
you
This
can't-
part. See this? Oops, sorry. Ah! I didn't mean to do that. Ah! What did I do? Oh wait, that's the other one. Hold on. Ah! What did I do? Hold on. I disappeared him. I'm gonna disappear you, and then when I disappear you, you're gonna be disappeared. What the fuck did I do? Where the fuck? What? Oh, Jamie's now at the birthright citizenship. You guys want to go over there? Yeah, cool.
Right? They wanted to stop the government from reconstituting a racial or ethnic caste system based on the inheritance of a subordinate or a
Welcome to
superior
Twice
legal
Baked.
status
I'm
from one's
Lolo.
parents. In post-Reconstruction America, nobody would ever become a slave or a serf or a legal outcast or a prince or a princess or a king or a count at birth, because everybody here would attain equal citizenship at birth. Am I capturing it correctly?
You are.
All right, I yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
I
I
wanted
thank
to hear your
the
part.
ranking member of the
Hold on.
committee, and I will now recognize Mr. Grothman for 5 minutes.
Oh no, I don't like
I'd
him.
like to ask one of the.
I'd rather go to here. Hold on.
Surrounding-
No, I don't like you either.
The spectrum among
No.
Obama and Joe Biden.
All the district court proceedings and in several of the circuit court
Hold on.
proceedings, so the court is at least
We're gonna
aware
go to
of
Jamie,
these members'
because I don't want
views
to listen to
on the
Grothman
historical
anyway, so it doesn't
And as
really
I
matter.
understand it,
Okay, I'm
So
gonna
we
stop.
do have an
'cause I'm fucking with
opportunity
it.
now, and with the act introduced to take some action on this.
Turncoat
And,
Vandrew.
with
He
that,
was elected
Mr.
as a
Chairman,
Democrat
I
and
yield
switched
back
parties
my
because he
time.
is a cunt.
I thank the gentleman from North Carolina. I will now recognize the gentleman from Maryland and the ranking member of the committee.
We're all
Mr. Chairman, thank you
princesses.
very much.
Yeah, hello. Jamie.
And thanks to all the witnesses for being here, and special greetings to my former colleague, Professor Frost. I want to start with you because there's been a major flurry of litigation about the onslaught of unlawful and unconstitutional executive orders that have come down from the administration. And this executive order has appeared in 4 different courts. And as I understand it, all 4 of them have worked to stop it, either through a temporary restraining order or a preliminary injunction. And they were appointed, by my count, by Presidents Reagan, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. And take a look at what they said. Here's Judge Kuhnauer, who was nominated by President Reagan. Citizenship by birth is an unequivocal constitutional right. It's one of the precious principles that makes the United States the great nation that it is. The president cannot change, limit, or qualify this constitutional right by executive order. I can't remember a case that presented a question as clear as this, says Judge Kuhnauer. And the fact that the government cloaked what is in fact a constitutional amendment under the guise of an executive order is equally unconstitutional. The Constitution is not something the government can play policy games with. Here's U.S. District Judge LaPlante from New Hampshire, who'd been nominated by President Bush. The plaintiffs are likely to suffer irreparable harm if the order's not granted. Here's U.S. District Judge Deborah Boardman, nominated by President Biden to the court in my home state, in Maryland. The executive order interprets the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment in a manner that the Supreme Court has resoundingly rejected and no court in the country has ever endorsed. And finally, check out Judge Sorokin, nominated to the district court in Massachusetts by President Obama, who says, the 14th Amendment says nothing of the birthright citizens' parents, and efforts to import such considerations at the time of enactment and when the Supreme Court construed the text was rejected. No federal judge, to my knowledge, has upheld this executive order against legal attack. Tell me why you think there's such unanimity across the spectrum among the judges.
Well, first of all, the language is crystal clear of the 14th Amendment. There are thorny and complicated and broad and vague provisions of the Constitution, but the Citizenship Clause could not speak more clearly. That's what the court said in Wong Kim Ark. Its language is universal. You know, I did a little research on this last night, and I found that the leaders of the writing of the first section of the 14th Amendment were Republicans from Ohio, right? John Bingham was described as the primary author of the Citizenship Clause by Supreme Court Justice Hugo Black, who said he was
Somebody
the 14th
get Jim
Amendment's
Jordan in
James
here.
Madison, the second founder who most worked to realize the universal promise of
can't
Madison's
see anything
Bill
right
of
now
Rights
on the news,
and
Paul J.
Jefferson's Declaration of Independence. And another great Ohio Republican, U.S. Senator Benjamin Wade, insisted on making the Citizenship Clause perfectly clear to avoid any backsliding in times of high partisan feeling. He said, I've always believed that every person of whatever race or color who was born in the United States was a citizen of the United States. But by the decisions of the courts, there's been a doubt thrown over the subject. And if the government should fall into the hands of those who are opposed to the views that some of us maintain, a different view of it, they may construe the provision in such a way as we
Max,
do
come on.
not
Of
think
course we have to
liable
have
construction at this
we
time.
can't not have these
unless
hearings. You
we
can't not
fortify
have
and
the
make it
truth out
very
there.
strong and very
The record
clear.
is
If we
important
do
because
not
we do
so,
refer back to
there may be
congressional
danger that
hearings
when party
decades
spirit
and
runs
centuries
high,
later,
it may
or at least
receive
we
a very
used to.
different construction from that
So yeah, you're
which
right
we,
for the short term.
founders put upon it. Now, so
But
I
we
wonder
absolutely
what you
have to
think
have this.
Senator Wade might be saying about the debate today about whether it's okay just
That's
to throw away
complying.
the first
That's
sentence
complying.
of the 14th Amendment.
Yeah, he was remarkably prescient. He foresaw a future
So,
in
but
which
yeah, I get
a
your
future
point.
political
It's not
party
going to
would
change
wanna
our
take away
reality right this
citizenship
second.
and
But
voting
I
and
think it's
political
critically
power
important
from
that we
groups
do
of
it.
Americans it didn't like and didn't view as fully American.
All right, I'm sorry to rush you along here, but the original purposes of the 14th Amendment remain perfectly clear for anyone who's an originalist, right? They wanted to stop the government from reconstituting a racial or ethnic caste system based on
It's
the
ridiculous
inheritance
that
of
we're
a
having to
subordinate
fucking
or a
argue
superior
this.
legal status
It's
from one's
ridiculous.
parents. In post-Reconstruction
And
America,
SCOTUS is
nobody would ever
compromised,
become a
but
slave
we're not
or a
willing to
serf
do
or a
anything
legal
about it.
outcast or a prince or a princess or a king or a count at birth, because everybody here would attain equal citizenship at birth. Am I capturing it correctly?
You are.
All right, I yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
I think the ranking member of the committee.
You don't need to be a genius to realize that Trump's not talking about babies that come from Norwegian vajayjays. No, he wants to.
Of other countries, any other countries that
Here we
have
go.
something this broad.
They're playing
just so we understand the way
Trevor
the average
Noah?
person thinks about these things.
Yes, I'll say that 32 countries have birthright citizenship, just like the United States, including Canada and Mexico.
Okay, Mr. O'Brien, I think she's saying something a little misleading there. When she says just like the United States, even though there are no European countries, are they, when they have birthright citizenship, just like the United States? I think what you told me is not true.
Excuse
to
me,
the best
sir.
of my knowledge, at present, there is some kind of limitation on birthright citizenship in all the places that have it.
Well, thank
what
you all
limitation
for
would that
tolerating
be?
me, and we'll send it back to the chair.
Thank the gentleman from Wisconsin. I now recognize the gentlelady
Fuck
from California.
Grothman. He's a fucking
Thank you, Mr.
pig.
Chair and Ranking Member. I think there's a quick video that I have.
You don't need to be a genius to realize that Trump's not talking about babies that come from Norwegian vajayjays. No, he wants to white out the Constitution so that he can whiten America. That's what he's planning to do here.
All right, I just thought since,
100%.
the South Africans are in the news, I would play that. I had a question for you, Mr. O'Brien. Is the Equal Protection Clause part of the 14th Amendment, yes or no?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. McCotter, is the Due Process Clause part of the 14th Amendment, yes or no?
Yes, although each clause
Okay,
uses
thank
different
you.
language.
Yes, I do know, but thank you for that. I ask those questions because I have heard no objection from this body, no
Absolutely.
quarrel,
You're
no
so right.
disagreement
You're
with
right,
the fact
Max.
that the Equal Protection Clause and the Due Process Clause are embedded in the U.S. Constitution through the 14th Amendment. In fact, this country's president, that so many revere, has invoked the Due Process Clause on the regular, as he should, because it is his right. And he has in fact showed the country how due process works when applied without prejudice. If only it would work for the rest of us like that, but I digress. The point is, those tenets are here to stay with birthright citizenship. So I want to talk about the times that gave rise to the 14th Amendment. It was 1868. There was the aftermath of the 4-year
That 14th
divisive,
A, due
destructive
process and
civil
equal
war
protection
that
are the
killed
real
roughly
target.
750,000 soldiers, or 2% of the population. Resistance in the form of Reconstruction, a massive tsunami in a soon-to-be U.S. territory that killed 70 people, and in the aftermath of the 1868 Louisiana Constitution, which gave black men the right to vote and a public education, you had Louisiana, the Louisiana Massacre, where black people were murdered trying to vote. As people would say from my hood in L.A., the white folks went cray-cray. And in spite of all of that, white congressmen showed up in 1868 to debate the 14th Amendment because in the midst of the madness and violence of the time, it was that important. And it passed with birthright citizenship, those 3 clauses. And these tenets forever changed this country. The 14th Amendment is a pillar of American law in a good way, and it has been for 160 years. Everyone recognizes that it should not be touched, that it is sacrosanct, even Justice Scalia. And Scalia, whose ideology I do not support, his reasoning is that the full 14th Amendment, which includes the Due Process Clause and the Equal Protection Clause, as well as birthright citizenship, was based on originalism, textualism, and traditionalism, and that one should consider the political and intellectual climate, beliefs and prejudices of the time it was ratified, and the amendment should be protected, which is why it is worth revisiting 1868, because the origin story of the amendment is as applicable now as it was then. You had a Democratic president impeached in 1868 and a Republican president impeached in 19 and 21. You had political violence in 1968 with the Louisiana Massacre and an insurrection that happened here in 2021 where Capitol Police were speared with American flags. You had a tsunami in Hawaii in 1868 and a fire again in 2023. You had an economic turndown in 1868 and you have $15 eggs under Trump right now in 2025. Same environment, toxic, hostile, destructive, deadly. And let's be clear, they had immigrants back then too. Irish, Jews, Germans, Italians, people who couldn't speak English, but they saw through the moment and passed the 14th Amendment. And it's not like this country has not had moments where people have felt under attack. We've had Jim Crow, World War II with the Germans, McCarthyism, the Japanese in internment camps, the Vietnam War, and birthright citizenship has survived all of that. And now, not because of war, but because somebody can't get a job at Walmart, because of xenophobia, fragile ego, and mediocrity, we are going to look for culprits instead of protecting the Constitution. It is the epitome of lazy. And if they could put the 14th Amendment in the Constitution during those hostile times, we can keep it in law during ours. The climate is not different. It is the patriotism of the Republican Party that is different. And with that, Mr. Chair, I yield back.
Well, I would just observe for the record that the phrase
time. We know from the
Nobody
congressional
cares.
debate that its authors understood its meaning to exclude foreign nationals who were merely passing through the country, but somewhere along the way it simply seems to have become assumed. So my first question, I guess, begin with you, Mr. O'Brien. Have any laws been passed that specifically provide for birthright citizenship for illegal migrants?
No, there have been none.
What?
And one of the reasons that this interpretation persists is because this wasn't an issue at the time that the case
Who
was
is this
decided, so
fucked
it was
up,
left alone.
upside down
How
character
did it
from
come to
Up?
be that it was
Who's this
simply
fucked up Ed
assumed?
Asner?
Nobody knows that. When I was at FAIR, we did an extensive research
Who's this
project where we
fucking
spent
piece of
hours
shit
trying to
creep?
find this. And we couldn't find any commentary on the Wong Kim Ark decision discussing the import. We couldn't find any government directives indicating that this was the rule. It just appears to have started happening in the mid-1920s.
Mr. McConnell, can you offer any light on this subject?
I think that's probably right. I think that's probably
No, I can't.
practicality. People weren't really paying attention, perhaps, and that's how we ended up with this kind of.
So no act of
People aren't paying
Congress,
attention.
no
Yeah,
Supreme
people don't
Court
pay
decision,
attention.
obviously no executive order until a few weeks ago,
Holy fuck.
touching on this subject.
Mr. McClintock, if I may just jump in here, I think the unfortunate reality is that the Wong Kim Ark case was misinterpreted in much of the way I think that my friend Professor Frost here misinterprets it.
Excuse
to
me?
have been a-holding some of the
you go.
some
I'm
of
going
the
to kick
very
your ass,
broad
old man.
language that is clearly dicta instead of the
I hate men
narrow
so much. I'm
and specifically
sorry.
identified holding,
useless.
which was quite limited to
Useless
people
man.
who
This is a
are in
useless
this country and their, who bear children in this country, who have a permanent, lawful residence in this country, at least
And it just
that.
kind of simmered.
Established allegiance
It
to
just
the
kind
country.
of simmered in the background until we had
Excuse me?
this mass historic.
Yeah, he's a dicta. He's a dicta.
Illegal migration.
I got your, yeah. Do it again.
And
do
now
it
we
again.
have to confront it. The chairman says
You,
the issue
sir.
belongs to Congress,
All right,
and I'd say,
dicta.
well, sort of. Obviously can't,
I'm gonna
Congress
kick your
can't
dicta.
deny
I'm gonna
automatic
kick you in the
birthright
dicta.
citizenship
You
by
are clearly
statute,
dicta.
if that's what the 14th Amendment guarantees.
I'm going to kick you in your dicta.
But of course, neither could an
You
executive
know what this
order.
one needs?
I think Congress would have to propose a
tell you what this one
constitutional
needs.
amendment to the states if that's what the 14th Amendment actually means.
That's what
But
this
if
one
the 14th
needs.
Amendment does not
Wait, here.
provide automatic birthright citizenship, and no statutes have been passed, and no other Supreme Court orders issued, it seems to me that no law would be needed to deny it. It was never extended in the first place. Is that, Mr. O'Brien, is that essentially correct?
Yes, that is correct. The question that
Oh, wait,
Wong
Mr.
Kim Ark
O'Brien
has been
definitely
interpreted
needs
as
these.
addressing was never
Yes,
the question
come
that
here,
was
little
before
one.
the court. The case
Come
came
here,
before
gobble,
the court
gobble.
in order
Gobble,
to determine
gobble.
whether Wong Kim Ark was an individual who fell into one of either the privileged or prohibited classes under the Chinese Exclusion Act, which itself was a modification of a treaty of trade and friendship between China and the United States.
They were here permanently
Oh, it works
within the
perfectly.
laws, within the jurisdiction of the United States by act of a ratified treaty.
Who knew
Yes,
those would come
that's
in
exactly
so
it.
handy?
So,
very
if
handy.
that's the case, and
So
wouldn't
handy.
the president's executive order
God.
simply be
And these two.
restating existing law?
I believe that's exactly what it does.
Mr. McCotter?
That's what my amicus brief on behalf of members of this committee says, sir.
Come on, Mr.
I
McCotter.
agree with that, Congressman McClintock.
I would just assume
I
Professor
second
Frost
that
disagrees.
emotion.
That's it for me,
Oh.
Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
If you're
Thank the gentleman from
not
California. I will now
loving
recognize the ranking member, the gentlelady from Pennsylvania, Ms. Scanlon.
Thank you.
The effort to end birthright citizenship is hardly something new. It's been the long-term goal of anti-Semitic and white nationalist groups for decades. The claim's largely based on the bigoted Great Replacement conspiracy theory, same conspiracy theory that has inspired a lot of deadly terrorist attacks in recent years. And we're hearing really uncomfortable echoes of some of that here in Congress in this day and age. As we're listening to some of these statements, I was reminded of one of our predecessor statements here, the great Barbara Jordan, who at a critical moment in our country's history talked about we the people. And when that document was completed in September of 1787, neither she nor I nor Professor Frost were included in that document. But as she said, through the process of amendment, interpretation, and court decision, we were finally included. And as members of Congress now, we should not sit here and be idle spectators, much less participants in the diminution, the subversion, or the destruction of the Constitution. And I would submit that the effort we're seeing here today to try to reinterpret and twist the clear language and legislative history of the Birthright Citizenship Clause would be such a diminution, subversion, or destruction of the Constitution. Now, Professor Frost, you've studied this for quite a long time. You, unlike several of the people here, are not a contributor to Project 2025. We've heard a lot about the specific language subject to the jurisdiction of. Why did they choose that phrase?
Yeah, the Reconstruction Congress told us clearly what they wanted to do there. They wanted to exclude the children of diplomats and ambassadors. And they also discussed at length the need to exclude children born into Native American tribes, which were separate foreign sovereigns with whom we had treaty relations, with their own courts and laws.
It did strike me the inconsistency in claiming that an undocumented immigrant is not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States when they are, in fact, subject to our criminal code, paying taxes, et cetera. Can you talk about that and talk about how that relates to the issue of the exception for diplomats and their children?
Yeah, sure. Of course, all children of immigrants, and all immigrants, including undocumented immigrants, are subject to the laws of the United States. President Trump knows that better than most, in that he is seeking to deport and enforce the immigration laws and other laws fully against this group. Also add something I mentioned before, which is the Reconstruction Congress was well aware there were people in the United States in violation of the law. Those were the enslaved African Americans brought to the United States in violation of federal law, and of course, the Citizenship Clause was intended to provide them with citizenship despite the fact they were there in violation of U.S. law.
I noticed you reacting to some of the testimony about the U.S. being some kind of outlier with respect to birthright citizenship, or having, it looked like you might have a different interpretation. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, with all due respect to Mr. O'Brien, who is a deep expert in U.S. immigration law, I don't think he is familiar with the laws of the 32 other countries that have birthright citizenship, automatic birthright citizenship, just like the United States. In Canada, if you're born in Canada, regardless of who your parents are, you're a citizen. That's why Senator Ted Cruz had to renounce his Canadian citizenship in 2014, because he was born in Canada to a U.S. citizen mother.
Thank you.
Certified
I also was struck by
badass.
the idea that we would be putting a rather strange burden upon our maternity wards in our states if every time someone is born they have to determine the citizenship or the immigration status of their parents. And how would that play out? I mean, does the delivery nurse have to ask which border the person came across, whether or not they checked in, whether they filed an asylum claim, or whether maybe they just overstayed their visa to study here if they were, for example, from South Africa? Do you have any thoughts on that?
It would impose enormous bureaucratic burden on hospitals, on state agencies, on our already overburdened immigration officials, and on the parents of newborn children. And as an immigration lawyer, I will say many people lack documentation of their citizenship or of their immigration status if they're lawful permanent residents. They may not be able to show that. And so we are asking these people at the time of their child's birth to prove this or risk having their child be deemed an undocumented immigrant from the moment it's born.
Okay, I do think it's interesting that this is hardly the open and shut case that our colleagues would suggest. Senator Cruz was recently quoted as saying that's actually a disputed legal question. There are serious scholarly arguments on both sides, et cetera. But with that, I see my time has expired, so I would just have a unanimous consent request to enter into the record a statement of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights.
Without objection.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady from Pennsylvania. I will also, without objection, ask to insert in the record a collection of quotes from the gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Jordan. The airport bears her name. I fly in and out of in Austin, Texas, every week. But it's a collection of quotes from her service as chair of a commission regarding immigration in the 1990s, in which she makes very clear her position that the enforcement of borders security is important, the importance of having immigration policy that works is important.
Okay.
that we
Yeah,
should not
nobody
have
disagrees with
amnesty,
you, fuckwad.
that we should, immigration should not be a path to public benefits. She was very clear in her language about that.
You know
and
what? Don't
numerous other
speak on
quotes
her.
from
Don't.
the gentlelady from
Don't
Texas, Ms.
speak
Jordan.
on her, you
And without
stupid
objection, I'll
cunt,
insert that in the record.
dick face.
And I will now recognize the gentleman from Missouri, Mr.
Oh my
Ocker.
God! Why,
Thank you, Mr.
Scanlon?
Chairman.
If I were her,
and thank
I'd just
you
be.
to the witnesses
My
for
hands
being
would
here
be around
today.
his throat, and I would
my
be arrested.
colleague from Pennsylvania
No, I
mentioned
wouldn't. I
the
wouldn't
term
do that,
white
but boy, would I
nationalism, and I
yell.
would
I'd get
remind
kicked out.
everyone of the context of the 14th Amendment, that the original white nationalists, Southern Democrats, fought a civil war to deny blacks their constitutional rights,
Oh,
to
he's
deny
playing
their
the
very
Democrats
humanity,
are
and then in
racist
the wake
card.
of that
Okay.
civil war,
Please, Mr.
sought to
Onder.
deny them of the rights of citizenship as well. And in that context, the 14th Amendment was enacted to make sure that white nationalist Southern Democrats not deny black slaves, former slaves,
Black
of their
slaves?
of their rights, and
You're
therefore
having
made it
trouble
clear
with
they
that,
were
aren't you?
citizens.
Are you having
But,
trouble?
Mr. McCotter, one of the authors of the 14th Amendment, Senator John Bingham, said that the Citizenship Clause conferred citizenship to every human being born within the jurisdiction of the United States, of parents not owing allegiance to any foreign sovereignty. Another author of the 14th Amendment, Senator Lyman Trumbull, stated that subject to the jurisdiction of the United States in the Citizenship Clause meant not owing
Two parents
allegiance
of
to
a
anybody
foreign
else.
citizenship have a
Do
child in Canada,
aliens,
and at least one parent is
and
a diplomat or
particularly
employed, the
illegal
child does
aliens,
not
owe
get Canadian
allegiance,
citizenship. Well, that's not. I don't think
exclusively
she's
to the
speaking of
United
that.
States, or do they
She's not talking
still
about
bear
the
allegiance to their
diplomats.
home country?
They would still bear at least partial
So, yeah,
allegiance to their home
I mean,
country.
I don't think that.
And
yeah.
and therefore,
So,
in part,
yeah.
Foreign ambassadors, diplomats do not have children
Okay, now do
of
post
foreign
1964.
ambassadors, and diplomats do not have
I
birthright
don't know if Musk is. Wait, who
citizenship.
is Musk a citizen? Like
That's
of
correct.
anything?
And
What is he a
this came up
citizen of?
earlier in some prior questioning about how LPRs, lawful permanent residents, could somehow be included within the birthright citizenship clause. And I think the response to that is that Wong Kim Ark itself recognized that those
Do we
individuals do
offer
have sufficient
diplomats
allegiance, but that's because they're
American
here
citizenship of their
permanently
children?
with the consent of the United States.
Okay. And,
we do that? Oh, well, yeah, there's a
example
tiny, except I don't think she was addressing that, though. But I get your
absurdity
point.
of all-out birthright
He is a
citizenship.
troll
El
at the
Chapo's
bottom
wife,
of a
Emma
K-hole.
Coronel,
Well, that
traveled to
sounds like a
California
song,
to give
sir.
birth and then immediately returned to Mexico. Under Biden's policy, the children of a drug lord were then American citizens who had every right to American bank accounts, and indeed they obtained American bank accounts. Did El Chapo's children, did
Only
they
if
own
they're born
full,
inside the. Oh, man. You
full
know what? Too small
full,
a problem for me
allegiance
to
to
worry
the
about.
United States?
He's a troll
They would not, no.
at the bottom
Their children
of a K-hole.
would have been at least partially allegiant
He's
to their
a
parents' home
troll at the
country.
bottom of a K-hole.
And so it is that, and I think in your
He's a
testimony, it's
troll
very
at the
clear that this
bottom of a
idea of
K-hole.
full allegiance
And he's not gonna get out.
is pivotal here.
It was the
He's a
widely
troll
understood
at the bottom of a
understanding
K-hole.
of the jurisdiction clause at the time it was ratified, yes.
Okay.
And if I may just briefly
Yes.
respond to the claim that some of the arguments in this area are inherently racist in some way, I'd point out in Wong Kim Ark, Justice John Harlan, the sole dissenter from Plessy v. Ferguson,
He was
the
black,
patron
right? Was that what you were gonna
of
say?
interpreting the
Something stupid like
Constitution
that?
as colorblind, he dissented in Wong Kim Ark and said that Wong had never become a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, and likewise, if I recall, it was Filer v. Doe, in which Justice Brennan, in dictum, in a footnote,
All the dicta.
opined
There's
that
a lot of dicta
that
at
anyone
the bottom
born
of the
physically in the United
K-hole, and
States
it's all
be a
deep.
birthright citizen.
I'm
Does
falling in a
does
K-hole
dictum
full
have
of
the
dicta,
same force of law
and I don't know
as
if I'll
a
ever get to
holding
sleep.
in a case?
It doesn't, and also in that footnote,
There's
Justice
a
Brennan
troll
said
at
that
the bottom of a
jurisdiction, the
K-hole,
phrase jurisdiction is bounded
and
only,
I'm
if at
not
all, by
sure
principles
what
of
he
sovereignty and
wants.
allegiance. The exact same things we
But I
were
Which is
think
what
we
you're
ought to
arguing today.
kick him.
Okay, thank you.
Kick him in his private parts.
Gentleman yields. All right, I appreciate that. I will now recognize myself for 5 minutes. And I
then
would just
I'll
ask,
accompany you.
Professor Frost, we talked a little bit earlier about the extent to which we've got the record is replete with examples of tourism, birth tourism, in which there are, malactors who are profiting by moving people into, or transporting people into the United States to then deliver babies. So we have Georgetown Law report talking about women from foreign countries, China and Russia, paying tens of thousands of dollars to temporarily relocate to the United States, give birth,
Well, why don't you do something about it?
We have that happening at the southern border with some regularity. In McAllen, we have it in Laredo, we have it in El
Rich
Paso,
people
throughout
coming
Texas.
over?
I certainly
Wow.
can attest personally.
They
You
do.
believe that all of those children, regardless of why they end up on American soil, that those children are,
personally
in
love
fact,
children?
U.S. citizens under the law?
I'm so glad you asked that, because there's actually a federal regulation, 22 CFR 41.31, which bars people from coming to the United States to give birth and gives consular officials the authority to bar anyone visibly pregnant from giving birth.
Individual, but that's not the question. The
No,
question
it's
is
actually the
these
answer.
babies are born on American soil. These babies are born on American soil. They are brought here. They're brought here for profit. Are they citizens, yes or no?
Yes, they're citizens, and if you have a
Okay.
problem, enforce the
So
regulation.
the question is that
Enforce
they
the
are, in fact,
regulation.
citizens
She
under
answered
your
your question,
interpretation of
cunt.
the law.
You just don't like the answer.
Mr. McCotter, you noted just a minute ago that, in fact, Justice Harlan was the lone dissent in Plessy, correct?
That's correct, yes.
But was also a dissenter in Wong.
Right, he joined the Chief
And
Justice.
so a threshold question here is, with respect to Wong, which is often cited as the basis, now 130 years hence, for these individuals being viewed as citizens by now in this instance, the most pernicious models, where people are profiting for bringing people into the United States to have babies, exploit our laws, go back to their countries or exploit our laws for citizenship, that they are deemed citizens based on an interpretation of an opinion 130 years ago. Yes or no, Mr. McCotter, do you believe that Wong stands for that premise?
I do not, and I cite support for that in the brief.
You believe that it is limited to, at most, an LPR type status under today's law.
Right, here's a quote. Wong, by its facts and some of its language, is limited to children born of parents who at the time of birth were in the United States lawfully and indeed were permanent residents. That's from a professor at NYU.
Mr. Cooper, do you share that view?
I do share that view, and I would point out again that Wong itself conditioned its irresistible conclusion from the 14th Amendment. It affirms the ancient and fundamental rule of citizenship by birth within the territory in the allegiance and under the protection of the country, which was premised in that case on the parents of Wong being lawful permanent residents, allegiant to this country.
So to be clear,
Oh, so
Mr.
it's
Cooper,
loyalty?
you do not believe that that Wong's opinion extends, certainly at a minimum, beyond, again, what we would characterize under today's law as an LPR status individual.
No, it clearly just didn't have anything to do, as Mr. O'Brien has said, with illegal aliens or aliens here who may be here lawfully, but only temporarily.
And are you aware of any opinion by the United States Supreme Court that has extended beyond that interpretation since Wong?
No.
Mr. McCotter, do you agree with that?
I agree, yes.
Mr. O'Brien, do you agree with that?
I do.
And so now, having, I think, established that that is, in fact, the state of the law with respect to Wong and everything since Wong, now my question is Wong itself correct? We have an opinion by Mr. Justice Harlan. Justice Harlan, who was the dissent in Plessy. Was Plessy later overturned? Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Sorry.
Mr. McCotter?
Yes,
Overturned. Mr. O'Brien?
I'm glad. I'm glad it's not
Professor
annoying.
Frost? Plessy was overturned.
Yes.
Neil, for
Now
government
we've
of
got
Canada,
Wong.
citizenship may be revoked if you
Is
committed fraud.
Wong
Yeah, well, see,
itself
apparently
correct
we
on
have
the
a
law
thing
with
too,
respect
but no.
to even LPRs under the interpretation of the 14th Amendment? I would ask Mr. Cooper your opinion on that.
Well, I will tell you, Mr. Chairman, that I think there's significant support for the conclusion, the holding in Wong, in the debates under the Citizenship Clause. But one doesn't have to conclude that it is correct in order to uphold this executive order, because the executive order is entirely consistent with Wong.
Mr. McCotter, do you have anything to add to that? Mr. O'Brien, and then I will be done with my time.
No, sir.
Mr. O'Brien, anything to add?
I do not believe it was correct, and I would go so far as to say that the holding itself should be considered limited to the terms that were before the court, which had to do with a treaty with China, which is no longer in existence.
I appreciate it, gentlemen. We now have another member of the committee, and I will recognize my colleague and my friend from Texas, Mr. Gill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, this guy's a real
160 years ago, Democrats were asking us, if it weren't for slavery, who would pick our cotton? And today they're asking a similar question, which is, if it weren't for mass migration, who would pick our avocados?
Excuse me?
It's a similar pattern that they've established. You can say that the United States is not, in fact, better off by importing a massive class
student visa never went to
of what is
university work instead.
virtually serf labor, which undermines our
guess what,
cultural
honey?
fabric and our government as
Soiling
well.
your people.
I'd also like to point out that the admission that we need more and more unvetted illegal aliens pouring into our country is also an admission that the goal, or one of the
I think he
goals of
is
our
the
colleagues
assaulter
on the
that
other side of
DOJ
the
won't
aisle is
charge.
explicitly
Yes,
to
Lee.
reduce American
This guy's a
wages.
sexual abuser? Is
Because
that
that's
it? Let me look
exactly
him up
what they're
before I
doing and
say
what they're
that.
saying they're doing whenever
don't
they
wanna
talk
be
about bringing
wrong.
in cheap labor. We're talking here about birthright citizenship, and which has
Yes,
provided
Brendan, we
an
know.
enormous loophole
Idiot.
in our immigration system and has facilitated the mass importation of illegal aliens. Through this current loophole, upwards of 300,000 people a year are granted automatic citizenship in the United States despite being born to parents who have no ties to our country and who are here illegally. And also due to failures in our legal immigration system, these individuals then use their citizenship to sponsor their illegal alien parents and other family members for a green card, which creates a never-ending cycle of people coming into the country who have no business being here at all. We've now gotten to the point where the percentage of America's foreign-born population is quickly approaching 15%, which is the highest it's been since at least 1910.
He's the one who asked for Ilhan Omar to be
Mr.
deported.
O'Brien, I'd like to start with you with a couple questions, if you don't mind.
I don't see
under
an
the 14th
assault
Amendment,
charge on him.
Native Americans, due to tribal allegiances, were not granted citizenship. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Got it. And the children of foreign diplomats were
Why are
also
3,000 people
expressly
in Guantanamo,
excluded from
Brendan?
birthright citizenship.
That's correct.
Got it. From the
Do
available
people
evidence, is
who-
it safe to say
Oh my
that the
God.
authors of the 14th Amendment understood a difference between total allegiance to the United States compared to simply being subject to the legal jurisdiction by nature of
He is a
presence in our
Nazi.
country?
Yes, I think
He's
they
a
made that
Nazi.
very clear in the
I'm sorry.
debates.
I'm not
Got
calling
it.
them Nazis
And in your
anymore.
opinion, based off
They're
this
Nazis.
difference, would the authors of the
This guy's a
14th
Nazi.
Amendment conclude that an individual whose
he's a
parents
Stasi
did not
kinda
owe
guy.
total allegiance to the United States
Yeah, this is
be
not the guy
granted
who was
birthright
charged with assault.
citizenship?
No,
No,
not the
I
same.
think the import of the holding in Wong Kim Ark was that only individuals who were lawfully present in the United States could transmit citizenship to their children born, or I should say, only the children born of people who were lawfully present in the United States.
Well, there's
could
a section
acquire
for that. Why don't we
citizenship at birth.
enforce the section?
And despite all this, some of my
This is
colleagues
not
here
a
still
problem,
contend that
people. This is
essentially
not a
any
problem
person
except
born
for the
here,
fact that
regardless of
nobody
their legal
enforces it.
status or the legal status
Okay.
of their parents, have a constitutional right to become a United
Peg says
States
should be
citizen.
in
Have you seen any
Gitmo.
evidence to suggest that
Waterboard
the
that
authors of the
motherfucker.
14th Amendment
I'm done
would support
being
that view?
nice. I'm not nice
No,
anymore.
and I don't think the authors of the opinion in Wong Kim Ark would have supported it either.
Got it. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I yield my time back to you.
Good, because you're a dick.
Well, I thank my colleague from Texas.
I didn't
now
put his
recognize the gentlelady from Pennsylvania for a unanimous consent request.
Yes, I seek unanimous consent to introduce Barbara Jordan's obituary in the New York
Thank you.
Times from January 18th,
Thank you.
1996, in which it notes that she spoke out against a proposal to deny automatic citizenship to the children of illegal immigrants, saying, I quote, "To deny birthright citizenship would derail this engine of American liberty."
Without objection?
Go
And
fuck
I would
yourself,
ask
Chip.
consent to insert into the record the Amex.
Oh gosh, I lost sound. I'm so sorry, Chip. I lost sound for your unanimous consent request. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Guess what? I think we've heard enough of this. I want to end today by reading something that I want to include on as many wake and bakes as we have access to. And this is, I hope you're going to subscribe. I saw that comment on the 14th Amendment Oomph made. Are they using? Yes. 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 That's what he said. That's what he said, and I would believe him. I believe Oomph. I definitely believe Oomph. He's very smart. He's a very smart man. Yeah, so as part of the Wake and Bake, etc., I want to do Resistance Sentinel, which is a daily. It's available on Blue Sky. And this is their Substack. So I'll show you their Blue Sky account after. Let me get their Blue Sky account. Oh my God, why is my thingy booby boob? Sorry, everybody. Oh man, that is not it. Not the Poly Market ban. I want the Blue Sky. Let me find Resistance. Hold on. Here we go. All right. Let me show you. This is the Blue Sky account, Resistance Sentinel. At resistancesentinel.bsky.social. Please make sure you're following it. Anyway, so that's that. But let me read to you the link for today. Sorry. Today's Resistance Daily Brief is out. We're going with a slightly different format where we try to synthesize more and make it easier to scan the newsletter quickly to get the big picture. And as news of daily resistance activity grows, we're trying to curate in a way that makes it easy for us to all keep up. Please let us know what you think. Thank you. All right. Oops, wait, where is it? Here we go. I don't know how Substack works. All right, here we go. Welcome. All right, we did that. Daily inspiration. Okay, here we go. Daily inspiration. The Tesla cherry protest is over 300 strong. Way to show up, South Jersey. Let's see. Oh, can I do this? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, that's a... Oh, look at all those people. Oh, my gosh. Look at all those people. Oh, that's so great. That's great. I love it. Wait, let me read what said. There's a point they made. Oh, yeah. Oren says there's a point they made about Chinese Exclusion Act and something about a different. I don't know. It's always a weird aside that becomes their talking point. I know. Says if they can change operation of a provision of an amendment that is not even under serious question, imagine what they plan for those provisions that have been extensively litigated. Yes, that part. I posted Oomph's comments on Blue Sky or Twitter. Maybe I did them on Twitter. And I'll post them on Blue Sky too. But the point is this attack of birthright citizenship, which I didn't realize this until Oomph said it, is an attack on due process. And so it's very important to understand that what the threat actually is being waged against. And to his point, if they can change the operation of a provision of an amendment, like the 14th Amendment, that is not even under question. Nobody had question and equal protection under the law. No one had questions about birthright citizenship. There's obviously laws and sections and criminal codes and other things that allow for the prosecution of birthright citizenship cases that are not viable, right? That are not legal or whatever. That's what Professor Frost was trying to say. So this, to Oomph's point, is around attacking due process and equal protection and other things that are contained in those that will allow them to spread autocracy. That is really the piece. I think that's an excellent point that I would not have noticed. I love this chat. This chat, and I know a few of you brought that up. Like, this is really a smart, thank God we have a smart chat. All right, civil society and publics. I'm getting used to this format, so forgive me if I jump. I don't know exactly how it's going to flow because I haven't looked at it yet, so I'll try and keep it smooth. Federal workers, unions, and citizens are mounting significant resistance to Musk's demand for job justifications and a mass firings of federal employees. The resistance is combining legal action with grassroots protests and satirical responses, demonstrating growing solidarity and the use of humor and mockery as tools of resistance. I know you were trying to. I'm sorry. You've done your duty. You've done your duty. You helped us understand, or helped me understand something that I did not see coming through. What happened? A coalition of federal unions and advocacy groups amended an existing lawsuit Monday, challenging Elon Musk's order requiring approximately 2 million federal employees to explain their weekly accomplishments or face dismissal. The email sent on Saturday night gave workers 48 hours to respond with approximately 5 bullets of their accomplishments, with Musk claiming a failure to respond will be taken as a resignation. Several federal agencies, including the Departments of Defense, State Energy, Health and Human Services, and Homeland Security, instructed their employees to disregard the email. Meanwhile, internet users flooded the response email with spam and vulgar content to protest Musk's actions. While GOP congressional representatives continued to receive harsh rebuke from citizens at town hall meetings in red states. Why it matters. This confrontation highlights the crucial role of organized labor and civil society in protecting democratic institutions from arbitrary power. The union's legal challenge represents a formal resistance mechanism, arguing that OPM violated the Administrative Procedure Act by sending an email from an unauthorized address without proper official identification. Simultaneously, the creative resistance through satirical responses and public demonstrations, like those seen at Representative Mark Alford's heated town hall in Missouri, demonstrates how humor and collective action can effectively challenge authority. These complementary approaches show how both institutional and grassroots resistance can work together to defend workers' rights and government stability against what unions have called one of the most massive employment frauds in the history of the country. And so there's some links here. Unions challenge Musk's order for federal employees to justify weekly work or face firing. Elon's email demand is being met with very rude flood of spam, which we're going to look at. And then the Missouri Republican Town Hall. This is great. It summarizes and then it gives you like little, this is a great Substack. Thank you, Gal, for this. Oh, request access? I don't know what that means. I don't know what this means. Okay, I'm not going to do that right now. I'll do that later. I want to see the spam. Bureaucratic and executive. The Office of Special Counsel has ruled that what happened? 6 federal employee firings under the doggy purge were unlawful, a decision that could impact numerous other terminated employees across federal agencies. This ruling represents a significant legal challenge to the Trump administration's federal workforce purge, potentially offering a path to reinstatement for affected workers, including those at national parks where employees are publicly protesting the cuts. What happened? The Office of Special Counsel has determined, I'm spitting. I'm so mad I'm spitting, has determined that the firings of 6 probationary federal employees from different agencies as part of the doggy purge were unlawful. The decision was issued by Hampton Dellinger, whom Trump had recently attempted to fire before being blocked by a federal judge. While the ruling technically applies only to these 6 specific cases, it likely has broader implications for many other employees terminated in the recent purge. At Yosemite National Park, employees hung an upside-down American flag over El Capitan during the popular Firefall event as a protest against recent downsizing carried out under the Trump administration's cost-cutting initiatives. This ruling creates a significant legal precedent that could undermine the administration's broader effort to remove federal workers deemed disloyal. The public protest at Yosemite, witnessed by visitors from around the world during one of the park's busiest periods, demonstrates growing resistance from federal employees concerned about the sustainability of operations at national parks. Park officials nationwide have expressed concerns about how these abrupt firings will impact the National Park Service, with affected workers like Iowa Park Ranger Brian Gibbs sharing their termination experiences publicly, generating substantial social media attention and potentially rallying public support against the administration's actions. Links there. Federal judges are blocking key Trump administration initiatives while local authorities take action against security overreach. These judicial interventions signal growing resistance to policies that potentially violate constitutional rights and privacy protections. The Why It Matters section applies academic framework from known nonviolent resistance strategies to explain what we're seeing can be leveraged by the resistance. Oh, thank you, Gal. Thank you. What happened? City prosecutors in Coeur d'Alene, is that how you say that? Dismissed charges against Teresa Borenpal, who was forcibly removed from a legislative town hall by plainclothes security guards and revoked a security company's business license for violating city ordinances. Ooh. A federal judge has barred the Office of Personnel Management and Education Department from sharing sensitive personal information with Elon Musk's doggy thing, ruling that such disclosure appears to breach federal privacy laws. The judge described the ongoing access to sensitive data like Social Security numbers and home addresses as irreparable harm and potentially risky. Additionally, courts have reportedly blocked Trump administration policies allowing ICE raids in certain places of worship. Why it matters. These judicial interventions represent significant challenges to the Trump administration's implementation of controversial policies. The doggy ruling could severely disrupt Musk's efforts to reshape the federal workforce through government-wide initiatives, including his recent demand that all government employees report their weekly activities. How many times you poop? The dismissal of charges against Borenpal and revocation of the security company's license demonstrates local authorities' willingness to protect free speech rights against overreach. Together, these actions indicate an emerging pattern of institutional resistance through legal channels that may force the administration to justify its actions and operate with greater transparency, potentially slowing the implementation of its agenda. This is fantastic. Wait, is the live over? Which one? What? Wait, what? I just kind of jumped off of it because it was like getting a little repetitive, but that's just me. Okay, let's see. So there's lots of wonderful links there. Oh my God, this is great. You know, on days when we don't, we're going to be going through a lot more of these, but this is really helpful, I think. This is really awesome. Democratic leadership in Congress continues to fail at mounting an effective resistance against the Trump-Musk administration's systematic dismantling of federal agencies through doggy, with House Democratic leader Jeffries and Senate Democratic leader Schumer showing little urgency in their sporadic criticisms. The Democrats' rapid response and lack of coordinated leadership means they're losing the narrative battle and threatening not just their political future, but the functioning of essential government services that protect Americans. What happened? Democratic leaders Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have been largely passive in response to the Trump-Musk blitzkrieg on federal government agencies. Jeffries has made only intermittent criticisms of the administration. Oh, my nose is stuffy. It's not. I'm just kidding. Wait, blitzkrieg. Jeffries has only made intermittent criticisms of the administration, comparing Democrat strategy to baseball player Aaron Judge's selective swinging, while questioning what leverage Democrats actually have. Meanwhile, Trump and Musk continue daily assaults on numerous agencies like USAID, the EPA, NIH, and CDC, and others, firing thousands of government workers and dismantling critical programs. Some Democratic legislators, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Chris Murphy, recognize this as a five-alarm breakout glass moment, but most party leaders appear to be watching from the sidelines. Why it matters. The Democrats' tepid response threatens not just their political future, but the functioning of essential government services that protect Americans. Without coordinated leadership, the party is losing the narrative battle against Trump and Musk's propaganda that they're eliminating waste and efficiency. The destruction being wrought on government agencies will be difficult to repair. This is a Substack linked. I don't think I linked it. Did I not link it? I might not have. Let me do that. Let me link that. Oh my God, my eyes are watering now. I'll throw the link in the chat, Jane. The Sentinel will soon be creating resistance school posts, going over strategies and tactics for nonviolent resistance, whether it be protest, etc., and other instructional type info. Oh, that's awesome. Should be good once it gets going. That's awesome. Let's see. The Democratic voters. Wait. The destruction being wrought on government agencies will be difficult to repair, even if Democrats regain power, as expertise is being lost and necessary programs eliminated. Democratic voters are demanding stronger action, with some even protesting Jeffries' book tour, calling for real resistance instead of strategic patience. The party needs a collective war room approach with daily counter-assaults across all media platforms to combat what AOC describes as the culmination of what oligarchy is all about. Interesting. State and local governments. All right, so this is the Coeur d'Alene story. This is a clear case of backfire where violent authoritarian overreaction works against their attempt at repression. So 2 days after a legislative town hall in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, Kootenai, is that how you say it? Kootenai? County Sheriff Bob Norris is under investigation after he directed private security guards to forcibly remove Teresa Borenpaul from the event. Borenpaul, a former Democratic candidate for Idaho's House of Representatives, was jeering speakers when Norris confronted her and summoned guards from private security company Lear Asset Management, who dragged her out as she screamed, "Who are these men?" The city of Coeur d'Alene has since revoked Lear's security license for violations of city code, and police have dropped the battery citation initially issued to Borenpaul for biting one of the guards during the incident. I fucking love her. I love you. I love you. I love you, Teresa Borenpaul. Why it matters. This incident represents a significant clash between free speech rights and attempts to control public discourse in politically divided communities. Coeur d'Alene Police Chief Lee White has stated he believes Borenpaul's removal was inappropriate under the First Amendment, highlighting the constitutional issues at stake. The case raises important questions about whether the town hall was a public forum or private event, as organizer Brent Reagan claims, and demonstrates how local authorities can either protect or undermine democratic norms. With multiple investigations now underway and a significant public support for Borenpaul evidenced by a $200,000 GoFundMe, this incident reflects broader tensions around democratic backsliding and resistance to authoritarian tactics at the local level. This is a clear example of the phenomenon of backfire in nonviolent struggle, where an overreaction on the part of authorities backfires on them. Oh, this is going to be good. Media and tech. Let's see. Cable and network news outlets MSNBC and NBC witnessed the loss of at least 6 journalists and commentators of color through firing or resignation, while other publications, like The New Yorker, pushed back on authoritarianism. This represents another indicator of the weak response of corporate media to authoritarian power consolidation. What happened? MSNBC has canceled Joy Reid's primetime show, The Readout, after 4 years on air, with her final broadcast set for July 26. Reid, who joined MSNBC in 2011, was the first black woman to host a primetime cable news program when her show launched in 2020. 2020. Additionally, MSNBC has also canceled Ayman Mohyeddin's weekend program, although he will continue to serve as a foreign correspondent. Meanwhile, Lester Holt has resigned as anchor of NBC Nightly News, but will remain as anchor of Dateline on NBC. Other non-white anchors were also shown the door at MSNBC, including Jonathan Capehart and Katie Phang. Why it matters. The removal of prominent non-white anchors from MSNBC's lineup comes at a particularly sensitive moment in American politics, as the country faces increasing threats to democratic institutions and growing authoritarian movements. These cancellations reduce diverse perspectives in mainstream media at a time when pro-democracy voices are essential for maintaining an informed electorate. The programming shift reflects broader challenges facing cable news networks, which have experienced significant viewership declines in recent months. These developments underscore the importance of maintaining diverse media voices that can effectively document and communicate democratic backsliding. Hi, Paul Langen. Oh. Barry Blitz cover for this week's issue of The New Yorker. You're fired. Oh. You guys have to see this in its completeness. This is The New Yorker cover. It's the founding fathers walking out with their boxes and their plants. Wow. Oh, here we go. International resistance. French President Emmanuel Macron publicly challenged President Donald Trump's claims about Ukraine aid and urged caution in U.S.-Russia peace talks, while European financial institutions continue to divest from companies close to the Trump regime. This is an example of growing international resistance and willingness to take adverse economic actions against entities that help prop up the regime. Let me make that a little bigger so you can see it. And I think, everyone's saying, oh, Macron was so complimentary and blah, blah, blah. I did not see Macron being complimentary. I saw him dragging that motherfucker and making him look like the doddering grandpa that he is. If you didn't see that in the interaction in the Oval between Macron and Trump, we were watching two different things. Because Macron was absolutely trolling Donald the entire motherfucking time. Sorry, not sorry. That's the way it is. Yeah. Yeah. Uncomfortable. That's right. They are uncomfortable when the public confronts them. Okay, here we go. During a joint Oval Office appearance on Monday, February 24th, Macron fact-checked Trump when the U.S. president claimed Europe was being repaid 60% of its Ukraine aid, with Macron asserting that Europe had actually paid 60% of the total effort through loans, guarantees, and grants. In a Fox News interview, Macron warned Trump to be careful in U.S.-Russia negotiations aimed at ending the 3-year-old war. Meanwhile, Dutch pension fund ABP has taken significant economic action by selling all of its shares in tech giants Alphabet, that's Google, and Meta, which is Facebook. Google and Facebook. This after already divesting from Elon Musk's Tesla. This demonstrates some European financial institutions' willingness to divest from powerful corporations when their practices conflict with European values and interests. Way to go. Why it matters. Macron's direct challenge to Trump represents a significant moment of European resistance to the new U.S. administration's approach to Ukraine conflict, demonstrating Europe's determination to protect its substantial investment in Ukraine's defense and its own sovereignty. The Dutch pension fund's divestment from major U.S. tech companies simultaneously shows how European financial institutions are willing to use economic leverage to assert their values. Oh, hey, American corporations, how about you? How about you? How about you? Together, these actions reflect a broader pattern of European resistance against both Russian aggression and American dominance, using both diplomatic confrontation and economic measures to maintain European autonomy in an increasingly multipolar world. International support, including economic actions that undercut an authoritarian regime's corporate backers, are important for successful resistance.
But not by Ukraine, by Russia, because they were the one to aggress.
Again, just so you understand, Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money. To be clear, we have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral of a loan because this is not our belonging. So they are frozen. If at the end of the day, in the negotiation we will have with Russia, they're ready to give it to us. Super. It will be loan at the end of the day, and Russia would have paid for that.
If you believe that, it's okay with me.
Mr. President,
if they get their money back, we don't, and now we do. But you know that's only fair.
Mr. President, it should be more money compensated, but
yeah, he was wrong. Yeah, he says everything. He totally got owned.
By Russia.
He got owned by Macron. Owned like a little bitch, like a little bitch, like this little bitch. All right, so here we go. What are the actions, organizations, resources, and opportunities for this week? Nationwide 24 economic blackout aims to challenge corporate power. For those of you, I think it's a good idea if we can try what happened. The People's Union USA, led by John Schwartz, is organizing a nationwide economic protest called the February 28th Economic Blackout, asking Americans, Macron, oh my God, damn it, I wish I had thought of that. Fuck. Asking Americans to halt all purchases from major retailers for 24 hours on February 28, 2025. The protest comes amid rising consumer prices and corporate rollbacks of DEI programs, with participants being urged to avoid spending at major chains like Amazon, Walmart, and fast food establishments while supporting local businesses instead. Why it matters. The economic blackout represents a significant test of collective consumer power against corporate interests, potentially demonstrating how coordinated action can influence corporate behavior and policy. While experts suggest a single-day boycott may have minimal direct financial impact, the movement's planned escalation to week-long targeted boycotts could create more substantial pressure on specific companies. The protest's focus on both economic justice and DEI rollbacks highlights growing public frustration with the corporate practices and could serve as a catalyst for broader systemic changes in how major companies approach worker compensation and social responsibility initiatives. Hell yeah. Yep. I'm following the Reddit for 50501. It's pretty good. I already don't shop. I mean, Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to say. Change takes time. And it is, in my mind, it's far better to do things than not. But okay. I mean, yeah. President Trump's military purge is causing alarm among respected military voices as frustrations with doggies spread among his own agency heads. This creates vulnerabilities with important pillars of regime support, security forces, and the bureaucracy that the resistance can exploit through strategic organizing and pressure campaigns. Oh, is it a coup link? Oh, is this a coup? Oh, shit. It's an attempted coup. What? Shit. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Let's see here. What happened? Oh, here we go. President Trump has fired several senior military leaders without cause, including General Charles Brown Jr., Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General James Slife, Admiral Lisa Franchetti, along with 3 Judge Advocates General, JAGs, who serve as the military's top legal authorities. Will unlikely vary. Yeah, I mean, that's true. If you're already not really participating and supporting that, then it's not really, I don't know. I just think you have to start somewhere. And, so what? So what if everybody doesn't do it? Like, so what? What does that matter? Like, some people will do it. I don't know. Maybe a lot more people will do it. Who knows? I guess we'll have to see and find out. Let's see. The firings appear to be part of a broader pattern where Doggy, led by Musk, is implementing sweeping changes across government agencies without coordinating with cabinet secretaries or political appointees. The removal of these military leaders threatens the traditional nonpartisan nature of U.S. armed forces, potentially making political loyalty a criterion for high military positions. You think? The dismissal of the top military lawyers is especially concerning, as it suggests an attempt to replace independent legal authorities with officials more willing to interpret laws according to the administration's desires. Pam Bondi. However, these actions expose significant vulnerabilities in the regime. The growing tensions between cabinet secretaries and Doggy create potential fractures within the administration that resistance movements can exploit. The alienation of career military professionals provides opportunities to induce defections among those loyal to the regime, and the overreach creates legal and constitutional vulnerabilities that can be challenged through strategic litigation. For resistance movements, these vulnerabilities represent opportunities to build pressure through economic non-cooperation, labor action, and targeted campaigns to induce defections among key pillars of support. The regime's actions also create openings for pro-democracy forces to document abuses, build alternative community power structures, and develop a united front that can effectively challenge authoritarian consolidation through coordinated, strategic, nonviolent resistance. Resistance School. The French resistance offers crucial lessons. We did read something about that. So you've been invaded. Yep, we read that. Oh, there it is. We read that. This is great. This is great. Yeah, actually, and I think the daily briefings can be pared down even more. So feedback on what matters to the readers will help them better tailor to the audience. Yeah, I think it might be a little on the long side, but for me, this would be a fantastic digest to like start a day on. You know what I mean? Like I would use this to start my day. Like I could see using, I don't know when they're going to publish, if they're publishing in the morning or at night, but I could definitely see using that. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, let me go ahead and give you the link to it. But I understand the criticisms of a day-long strike. I totally understand that. But I also don't know if we don't do anything. Is that just? I mean, either way. I mean, I think it's better to try. And if you don't want to try, then that's fine. I mean, you find your own deal about how to resist. Let's see. Link to Resistance Sentinel. It's good information. It's really good information. I'll tell you one thing too that I really like about it, Gal, is I love the way that the categories are labeled and separated, and that these are the stories. Like I didn't know that the Coeur d'Alene case had gone to investigation and other things. So this is actually super helpful. And I don't know if I would want it. I don't know if I would want it to be shorter. Yeah. And I love the links. Like I could see on days when we don't have hearings too. Yeah, you can go right to the section you want, or you can go, you know what I mean? Like I actually really like this. And it feels very timely. It feels like it's, kind of in the moment. Like it's not old news, which is really hard right now because everything changes so fast. I don't know. Putin calls Donald Maya Malenkaya Postel. What's that? Postel? What's it? I don't even know what that means. If I saw it in Cyrillic, I might know it better. The thought is for people who don't have a ton of time to read a million articles after work or whatever and give them opportunities to resist. I think that's fantastic. I love it. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. I need something like this because it goes over a lot of things. It's not like just one. Oh, Maya Malenkaya Pastel Mokraya? What's a Mokraya? Pastel Mokraya? The fuck is that? What is Pastel Mokraya? What the hell? The bed is wet? Oh, bedwetter. Oh. I'm like, the bed is wet. What? Pastel Mokraya? Well, there you go. He's his Malenkaya, his little tiny. That's what Malenki. Oh, I guess Malenkaya is the gen or whatever, case or whatever. My little bedwetter. It's also intended to not really cover the awful suck stuff, but show where resistance is working and moving through the country. I also like that it's kind of giving us the nonviolent communication, that nonviolent resistance, those tenets that exist, They're not inventing them. They're sharing, but and analyzing it through the lens of nonviolent resistance, which I really like. Zvonki o prostitutkach. Well, I know what prostitutkach means, but don't know much of other things because courage is contagious. Yeah. And we need less people feeling exhausted and angry about the news and motivated into action against this administration. And to see where resistance is actually working. Malenka to me is a Spanish vampire film with a haunting theme song. Ooh, that sounds good. Doj. Yeah. I learned 2 new Russian words each day from one of our Russian bus drivers. Oh, I like Russian. All right, I gotta get us back to our little campfire for a minute here. That was really good. Thank you, Gal. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Do post it. I want to find that movie. Yeah. Oh, what a day. Oh, we didn't even get to the trade one. There actually is a lot happening and we don't realize it. And actually that would really help. Oh, Privyet. That's right. Hi. That's what Privyet means. Hi. Privyet. And then you can say, Tak. How are you, Tak? How's it going? Yeah. Oh, so tonight is Documentary Tuesday. Yeah, it is. Yep. And Oren helped choose our documentary this Tuesday. Thank you, Oren, if you're still here. And it is 1,000 Cuts. Actually, let me pull it up. It's about a journalist in the Philippines. That's not how you spell that. It's a Frontline documentary. We're going to watch it tonight. Tonight. Oh. Tonight. I'm already subscribed. Go away. I don't want it. So this is what we're watching tonight, 1,000 Cuts. With press freedom under threat in the Philippines, 1,000 Cuts goes inside the escalating war between the government and the press. This documentary follows Maria Ressa, a renowned journalist who has become a top target of President Rodrigo Duterte's crackdown on the news media. It is from, when was this? Oh, shit balls. 2021. 2021. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. On the Discord. I'll put up links and all that good stuff everywhere that I can. So please join us tonight for Documentary Tuesday. Yay! Bum, bum, bum. Yay! Neil will be there. Neil will be there, damn it. 7 Mountain. 7 Mountain. 8 Central. 9 Eastern. Something else in London. Something totally different in Australia. God knows what's happening in Tasmania. All right, I love you guys. Thank you for coming to count them, 2, Twice Baked, 10:30 in Newfoundland. That's right. I got Annette. You're in Newfoundland. We love you, Annette, if you're listening. All right, I'll see you guys later. Have a great rest of your, what the fuck is it, Tuesday.